Good morning, everybody. It is Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Super excited to be with you guys today. We've got lots and lots and lots and lots to cover. As you guys know, my good buddy, Jerry Powell, buddy at the Fed, had that conversation this week. What I loved about it was 8 minutes. I didn't have to listen to 52 minutes of absurdity. I only had to listen to 8. But even better was he was clear, succinct, to the point. I love that he listened to other people and took notes on what he needed to do better in order to better and more effectively communicate. I think a lot of it was the same message that he's carried all the way along, but he was far more direct about exactly what he's going to be doing, which is it's really about one thing: jobs, 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 and inflation, 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 inflation. They're willing to lose those jobs in order to clamp down on inflation, and they're happy to raise rates into that. So I think that Wall Street absolutely got warned, like they should, that they are a-changing, which I absolutely love. Anyway, there's lots going on here, guys. On the onset, I'm the Lumberjack Landlord. I have 121 units currently. We've got another 3 properties that we've put under contract. So I am still actively doing deals in the market that can only go down, or so I'm being told. So listen, real estate is hyper local. I want to encourage you guys to continue to do work in your local market. You need to not be relying on realtors, mortgage people, or your friends to tell you if now is a good or bad time to buy. Don't rely on YouTubers. They look at the entire market as a whole, and real estate is hyper local. One of the more interesting articles that I've read in the last 2 days was actually one that was put out regarding what Wall Street's really doing when it comes to homes. It has been misinterpreted all over YouTube. People saying Wall Street stopped buying homes and they're transitioning and selling. They are not selling anything. They flat out said, we are not selling anything. Here's exactly what their answer was. In 38 markets, we are pulling back. We are no longer purchasing in those 38 markets. In 50 other markets, they are still actively purchasing homes. These are just the numbers, guys. 38 they aren't purchasing anymore. 50 they are still actively purchasing. So before you take someone's advice that doesn't spend any time, think about Wall Street, right? Think about what they do. Think about the money that they're putting at play. Think about the fiduciary responsibility they have for that money. What do they have to do? An absolute ton of research. They recognize that real estate is a phenomenal long-term play. Long-term play. That's what they recognize it to be. So right now, when they come out and they say, we're not buying in these 38 markets. Okay, would I be buying in those 38 markets? Maybe, because they're probably trying to buy big swaths of properties. So is there an opportunity now for a smaller investor or even a home buyer to potentially look and say, you know what, now might be the time for me to buy something? You got to do your own research. You got to understand what you're looking at. There's a lot of strategies on my channel where I talk about buying your first single family home or buying your first income property. It really, there's 2 different criteria that are used for that. And I recognize that. I bought a primary home for my family about 2 years ago. And I use different criteria in some cases than I used to buy the investment properties. When these other 3 close, that means we will have done 21 deals in about 18 months, more than a deal a month. We're not out there pushing hard to buy deals. We're only looking at every single deal, evaluating every single deal, and then selecting which deals we're going to do. And we engage in a lot of these deals. In some deals, we don't even bother engaging. They hit the market. They're outrageously overpriced. We look at them hit 30 days. We look at them and hit 60 days. There's just not a lot of that volume out there. There just isn't a lot out there. So what I would tell you is this. If we're taking any lessons from Wall Street, 38 metros they're not doing business 50, they still are. That means to them, the cost, the return on their capital is worth it still in 50 markets. As you can imagine, they're not sharing what those 50 markets are. They are sharing, I think they shared a lot of what the 38 are, but they didn't share on the 50. So what I would tell you is this again, your real estate is hyper local. Don't let other people make decisions for you. Don't look at the national situation and think that that directly correlates and comes into play for your specific market. My market, the inventory is up 7%. That's it. That's all. Days on market fell. Look at your market. Look at where you're trying to buy. Understand how to evaluate the market. Understand what you need to be evaluating. One of the major things that I see left out in a lot of crash videos or wait to buy videos, they don't calculate the fact that in the next 7 years, if you buy that home, your rate is fixed. Maybe the rate goes down and you can refi, but maybe it doesn't. But will your rent go up in 7 years? Will your rent go up in 7 years? 95% of the time, absolutely it will. So when you have that mortgage, you have controlled cost. When you don't have that mortgage and your rent, you are subject to whatever the landlord at that time wants to raise it to. And if we do see a massive recession and we do see people lose their jobs, those houses might come available, but Wall Street has cash to buy them. And other people, the banks start playing with DTI because Wall Street can go to a bank and say, hey, we want to buy $100 million worth of property. We only want you to carry 50% of the debt. We'll buy the other, we'll pay for it. We'll have 50% in there. The bank's going to give them a great rate on $50 million because the amount of cost that goes into doing those things one-off is absolutely crazy high. So if they can literally look at a portfolio and go, yeah, all we have to do is give you a rate that's, cost plus 0.5% or cost plus 0.5 point. Yeah, that's a good deal for them. So keep in mind who your competition is and who you're going after. There's no replacement for doing the work, understanding your market. It is hyper local and you have to do that your own research. You must. So I would encourage you to continue to do the work. Continue to understand your market. There are markets absolutely out there that are adjusting. I won't say they're crashing because they just aren't. The rate by which they are adjusting is faster than usual, but they're not crashing. They're still in correction mode. The good news for me is I shared this week what exactly I'm doing with trying to buy my second home in Las Vegas. Shared exactly what I'm doing. The numbers really carry out to this. For every 1% the mortgage rate moves up, i.e. 5 to 6, the house doesn't lose 10% value. I lose 10% of my buying power. That's why you still see people buying today, even with rates in the 5s and the 6s. But you still see people buying today in the 5s and the 6s because to them, they're still paying 80% more than if they just purchased a year ago with last year's rates. Imagine purchasing last year's rates. Imagine being able to purchase at last year's rates right now. You would jump on that deal in a second. In a second, you would jump on that deal. So from my perspective, I believe that you must do the work daily. You must be looking at your market. You must be understanding what your personal goals are. If you believe that you're going to be in that area for 20 years, you say, you know what, no matter what, I'm not moving. My family's not moving. We're not going anywhere. So we're much better off laying down roots, having a property, and understanding that our rate, where it might be 5 or 5.5 now, what if it's 7 in 2 years, but the properties haven't gone down 20%? They very well may not. Look at real estate in the 70s. Real estate in the 70s, rates went from 7 to about 11, and properties doubled. It's the math, guys. It's the math. So for all the people out there that are rooting for me to fail, for all the people out there that are rooting for investors to fail, just know this. We've spent a lot more time in the weeds looking at exactly what's occurring and making sure that we're, as investors, we're only doing great deals that give us a great return on our capital. I would not do a skinny deal now. Of course I wouldn't. But those great deals, every deal that I have under contract, all three of them have a greater than 20% return on my capital, all of them. And I'm getting 30-year fixed rate debt. So I didn't want to blow your ears out with shouting all that stuff this morning, but I see we got a ton of questions. So I'm going to jump in, do some questions right now. Real quickly is, oh man, I can't believe it. Oh, wait, one second. Nope, that's not it. We have merch today. Hold on one second. Let me just see if I can get Mrs. Lumberjack to assist. So we have Lumberjack merch. We'll talk about that. We are enabled for super chats today. I fixed it. So here's the deal. For every single super chat that we get, and it's even $1, anybody that does a super chat that does it even for $1, you're going to get rolled into a bucket, and we'll pick the number out of the bucket. We'll do them in order. So if you were super chat number 1, super chat number 2, super chat number 3, we'll roll them into a bucket, and then we'll pick the number. We'll see who that is. And then they will get a free Lumberjack Landlord t-shirt. This is our first run of t-shirts. We're super excited about it. If you want to and trust me, I don't think this highly of myself, but as a funny haha to let sure you knew it and you just didn't quote unquote buy it off the store, I'm more than happy to sign it for you. Lumberjack Landlord for you guys. So yeah, super chats, like I said, don't get crazy, but anything over $1 for a super chat, we'll enter your name in a hat. And at the end of the show, I don't have the dice on me, so I'm just going to keep track of everybody. And then we will make sure that somebody gets that shirt. How's that sound? I think it's pretty awesome. Because yeah, the stuff is really cool. Shirts came out awesome. So let's jump into the questions. Dividend Dave, good morning. Good morning, sir. I beat Dion to the greetings. Yeah, I know. Dion was asleep at the switch, right, Dion? I know he's here. That's all. Good morning. Phil Nealon, good morning. Rue Life International Show. I'm looking at getting my first home. Any advice? Lots. I just covered a lot of it. You got to be doing the work in your market. You got to be watching the market, understanding what's transpiring. Are you in the 38 markets that Wall Street says these are too frothy, these are too overvalued, overpriced? Or are you in one of the markets where they're still actively buying? I don't know. So it really depends, hyper local on your market and what your plan is. If you recognize that, hey, no matter what, we're going to be here, and we don't want to have the pressure of having a rental, and we're already kind of at the top of our rental range and what we're paying. There's just so many factors on, is now the right time to buy a house? I can tell you there's as many factors on, is now not the right time. I think too often people make it about one thing, price. It's not about price. It's about price. It's about rate. It's about your life, right? That was the different criteria that we use when we were buying our home, our local home. Alyssa McEwen. Hey, Alyssa. For those of you who don't know, Alyssa had a phenomenal opportunity or interview, excuse me. She had a phenomenal interview with us on the channel about 3 weeks ago now. She's a multiple owner, multi-state, Montana and Utah, I believe. And I just had a blast. She was so much fun. I'm definitely looking to connect with her. Hey, Lumberjack, I want to implement the 4-3-2-1 strategy. Should I focus on 4s and not look at 2s and 3s? That's a great question. Focus on 4s and see what kind of inventory is there. You can't go back. You can't go 3 to 4. Fannie Freddie, when they go to sell that loan, your mortgage broker or your bank go to sell that loan, there's an underwriter. That underwriter will very rarely let you go up in unit count, 3s to 4s, because they say, why would anybody want to do that? I feel like they might be an investor. We don't want to do loans for investors. So I would look at the 4 units. If there's no inventory, look at the last 4 unit that sold. In one of the cities I do business in, only 2 sold last year. That's it. People that have them are holding on to them for dear life. Only 2 sold. If you go down to 3s and you see that 30 sold, okay, I would have 3s and 4s because you can do the work on both, because the volume on the 4s is so low. I am ecstatic to say that this year, 0 4 units have sold in one of my cities. And I just got one under contract, which I could not be more elated about. Absolutely pumped that I got that deal under contract. So that's all. I think it's a great question. Look at the inventory on 4s, then look at the inventory on 3s. You want to have some inventory to choose from, but if it's really low on 4s, I'd still be tracking those, because the 4 is going to be your best return on capital in almost every case when you're hacking it, in almost every case. Right. Millennial Mike, it's the big financial G. What up, pal? How you doing, Bob? Are you working today? Are you protecting and serving? I expect you are, even if you're not working. Shamir Pallavi. Hey, Pallavi, good morning. Shamir Bless, howdy. I saw your question to Ben Mala this week. I watch him for entertainment. He's way above residential deals. He said he was getting 2% interest rate from banks during the pandemic. So Shamir, yeah, I practice what I preach. I take a ton of information in. I watch Ben Mala. I watch Uneducated Economists. Every once in a while, I'll watch George Gammon. I'll watch Real Estate Mindset every once in a while. I find him far better than the other channel that I can't watch him. So Real Estate Mindset, I watch, and he's a good guy. I've actually talked with Travis off camera. We did a section together. It was a great session. I loved it. If you guys want to see more of me with Real Estate Mindset, just go comment on the video saying, hey, love this, love seeing you guys work together. We got off on a bad foot, but we fixed it. And I actually like working with Travis. And I think that he certainly has valid concerns. So, I want to just bring my expertise to the table, and with his together, just give people more information to hopefully make better decisions. Let's see. So yeah, he was getting 2%. So I've actually reached out to Ben. I want to better understand, is he still at 2% or was he a float rate? If he's a float rate, I hope he saved a lot of that money to pay down those properties, because that could get really scary really fast. Oh, Brian. Hey, thanks, Brian, so much. Brian's on there, number 1. Here we go. I think it should actually track all that stuff too. Brian. Thank you, Brian. You can ask a question too, Brian. Oh, there's the question behind it. I see. Good. Yeah, and that's a real quick thing too. If you do that super chat for $1 and then you ask your question underneath it, it doesn't limit your characters, because the 1 does limit your characters. And also Dion. Thanks, Dion, for the super chat. Let's see. Matt Bittner. Good morning, Matt. Invest to Wealth. Good morning. Cha-Cha question. How can I identify the 38 markets corporate investors are pulling back from? So Google that article. I believe it was in Forbes. I'm not 100% sure, but Google that market, or Google that 38 or Wall Street stops investing in 38 markets. You'll find that. I'm pretty sure it's a Forbes article. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a 9th grade dropout. I am not a reader, but I am a aggressive researcher. Okay. I don't read books for pleasure. I don't read books. I read a ton of boring data reports. And I read a lot of articles. I'd probably say on a daily basis, I read 20 to 30 articles. I read a lot, but not books. Scott Wang. Morning, Matt. I am using a HELOC as emergency reserve. Do you advise to pull the cash out and pay interest, or just leave it in there? I heard you and Zuber talking about banks canceling no warning. So Scott Wang, that is a fantastic question. Here's the only concern that I have. I have done HELOCs before. You can absolutely get got, and that's a problem. And what I mean by get got is they can shut that thing down in 5 seconds. They literally can. In fact, I had no warning that mine was getting shut down. I actually had written checks off of it. This is back in 2008. I'd written checks off of it, and guess what happened? They shut it down and they bounced all those checks. It cost me $700 to clear up those checks. I've never bounced a check before that. I'd never bounced a check after that, but they crushed me. In fact, it was about $10,000 worth of checks. They put my account in fraud. It took a week and a half. It took 2 weeks to clean up. It was a nightmare. It literally shut me down from doing business for 2 weeks. Now, thankfully, everybody understood. I showed them all the paperwork. I said, I'm happy to have that call with you, take you through it. I took them all through it, but that was my nightmare. So the thing that I would tell you is HELOCs are the first thing to go away. And here's why. So let's do a little bit of, so let's do this. Class is in session. Why are HELOCs a dangerous borrowing asset? HELOCs are a dangerous borrowing asset because of one main thing. The bank, look at what the bank has to do in order to provide you a HELOC. When they provide you a mortgage of, let's say, $200,000, within 30 to 45 days, you are making payments on that mortgage. When you're making payments on that mortgage, that money for them is now performing. They are servicing the loan. When they service that loan, guess what happens? They get paid. When they do a HELOC, that blocks that, let's say it's a $200,000 HELOC. They block that $200,000 HELOC. They're not getting paid for servicing it. They didn't get paid a bunch of money to close it, but here's the worst thing of all. They have to take out the same $100,000 reserve off of their lending limits. You now have $100,000 that's not performing with that $100,000 HELOC loan. The bank has a $100,000 HELOC that's now not performing. It's not making them any money. They're not servicing anything. There's nothing there. That's a huge problem for them. That's why, as an asset, that's the very first thing that those guys look at. And they say, we got to shut this down. This is absolutely what we have to do because we need those reserves. We need those reserves and we need to be able to lend them out to where we're going to start getting payments back on mortgages where we're going to actually get servicing dollars and make money on that, on those loans. So my answer to you is put yourself in the bank's position. The bank is going to put $100,000 aside for you. And these are the terms that we've agreed to on that loan. What happens when the market gets dicey? What happens when unemployment goes up 2 or 3%? Meaning it goes from 3.5 to 5.5 or 6.5. What happens when some of these bigger places start defaulting? Because some of the large multifamilies, some of these office spaces, they're going to start defaulting. So when that happens, what do you then do? They're going to then shut that thing down and then you don't have an emergency fund anymore. The challenge is if you pull it out now, you're paying interest on it. So for me, I make no recommendation, no financial advice for everybody because I'm not for anybody because I'm not a financial advisor. What I did personally, back when I had fewer properties, I actually did that. I actually took out a HELOC. I pulled the money out and I went shopping for an income producing asset that would cover the cost of that money and cover the cost of the mortgage. It is a more risky, more aggressive strategy, but it is something that I did and I'm always transparent with you guys. All right. I saw Don and Bev do something. I see Dion, but he didn't ask a question. Phil Nealon, he does like money. Yes. All right. Dion, Phil. Cool. Nealand. I just want to make sure with these super chats, they don't go away. Don and Bev Perkins. Hey, Don and Bev. Don's in a very expensive market. I love seeing his posts respond back. Love that stuff. Love it, because it's always fantastic to learn what's going on in some more expensive more expensive markets. Thanks for the product reviews. Electronic deadbolt was helpful. Awesome. Glad to hear that, Don. That's great. All right. So let's see. So that's what I would answer for you, Scott Wang, and for Cha-Cha on the HELOCs. That's what you have to be careful of. Phil Nealon, first winter coming up as a landlord in Alaska. Oh, dear Lord. What do you look for in a plow guy? Talking to other customers. I want to talk to a couple of other clients for sure. Yep. 100%. I want to know, did you have any were you getting any calls from anybody on, being late or not taking care of something, or what time do you plow? I always want to hear from my guy that he's there before 6 a.m. because that's the earliest that anybody's leaving for work usually. But I want to hear that he's there before 6 a.m. If I have a property that has a unique need to it, I'll let him know this one's unique. This one has to always be done at 2:30 or whatever. But the rule is for me is usually I don't want to get plowed unless it's more than 3 inches of snow. So unless it's more than 3 inches of snow, I'm saying, you know what, it's not a plowable event. Excuse me, 2 inches of snow. But I want to see that he's there before people get up. And I want to have him come back in the middle of the day when everybody's cars are moved, and then he can clean everything up. That way, by the time everyone gets home from work that afternoon or evening, everything's cleaned up. Those are the two main things that I would look at, Phil. Those are the two main things I would look at. Matt Bittner, what up, my man? I saw your thumbs up. Sorry, I missed you. John Williams, good morning, Lumberjack. Good morning, John. Laura Samaniego, good morning, everyone. Matt, thanks so much for keep reminding us to stay focused in our local market. Yeah, guys, all these, and that's one of the things that I talked about with real estate mindset. I said, guys, at the end of the day, people talk about national because it gives, generally speaking, which what's going on with the nation. The worst decline was 8.9% nationally in the Great Recession back in 8 and 9. Yeah, guess what? There were a bunch of markets that went down 70%. The worst was 8.9, but peak to trough, some went 70%. Nationally, we went down for 4 or 5 years, and I want to say it was like 30 or 32%. But imagine, there were markets that went down 75. My market, sadly, I guess sadly, because I couldn't really acquire that much stuff, my market didn't go down anywhere near that, sadly. Nicholas Massey, good morning. Do you allow pets in your rentals? Any tips of how much for pet, rent, deposit, etc.? I do not call it a pet deposit. If you call it a pet deposit, that indicates that you're taking that as a deposit and that you're going to return it. You have to call it a fee or a charge. Here's a pet charge. Here's a pet fee. Do not call it a deposit. You have to feel what you have to go based on what you feel most comfortable on. I always tell people there's a list that my insurance company will allow. There's a list that my insurance company will not allow. Based on what my insurance company will or won't allow, guess what? That's what it dictates on whether or not I can accept the pet. If it's an emotional support animal, check your local laws. There's a lot of rules there. They cannot be denied based on that emotional support animal. An emotional support animal is different than a service animal. A service animal has been trained to provide that person service. An emotional support animal can actually be any pet and can actually not, in my state, cannot be denied based on. So, but it has no training. Those pets have zero training. It's truly emotional support. True story. And so then you just have to figure out cost wise. I would talk to other landlords in the market and see what they're charging. For us, we charge a monthly fee. It's $25 per animal. Over a year, it's $250 plus a couple animals. Some people want to do that. Some people don't. Brian, as someone who has owned and worked on many properties concerning personal residence, what features do you feel you and your family enjoy the most? What are you looking for in your future Las Vegas compound? That is a great question. Let me see. I just saw a new super chat. Just want to make sure I don't. Oh, Dividend Dave. Dividend Dave. I will answer your question, Dividend Dave. Actually, I'll answer it right now. Big fan. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Are you retired yet? I am not. Still not retired. Getting close. I'm closer every day. Closer every day. So Brian, what are we looking for most? We will definitely do 5 bedrooms at least. Has to have a pool. Has to have some of a yard. I know yards are challenging in Vegas because it's kind of like everybody's on top of each other. We are looking in Summerlin and Desert Shores. So I'd like to be on the water. That's why I like Desert Shores. And there's, the tiny lakes there and stuff. So I do like that. But yeah, we'll kind of see. But those are the main things are 5 bedrooms plus pool. The rest of it doesn't really matter. My preference and what the direction that I've given my agent is I want a house that looks like Don Johnson would rent it with his white Ferrari. That's what I want. I want something that I need to go through and rip out cabinets, rip out ugly bathrooms. I like to add value. I know how to design. I know how to get that stuff done much less expensively than a contractor. I was going to say, well, redoing that bathroom was $20,000. No, then you use the wrong guys, or you're way overcharging me, or your cost structures are out of whack. It doesn't cost anywhere near that. So that's ideally what we're looking at. Summerlin or Desert Shores, a pool is a requirement, a 5 bedrooms at least is a requirement. I think probably 3,000 square feet is also a requirement, in all honesty. Yeah, at least 3,000, preferably 4. So yeah, something decent size. We've got a lot of kids, 3 now. We'll be adding to that, I'm pretty sure. And we'll have friends come out and visit us because we like our friends. And I got to have somewhere where, Dion can come crash, because he's a good dude. JRD, from your knowledge, what states will have the best opportunities for real estate investors and not anti-landlord like California? The only opinion that I have on that is truly opinion, and it's feeling, not 100% fact. So it's more feeling based. I think Florida, I think Texas, but Texas is huge. It has 4 massive markets, massive. Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, 4 massive markets that are all bigger than my state, my entire state. Those 4 markets are bigger than my entire state. Same thing with Florida. You've got Miami, you've got Orlando, you've got Tampa, you've got Tallahassee, Sarasota. You've got a lot of markets there. So I don't know that there's me personally, I'm more focused, I'm more driven towards states that have higher property taxes, because then it's kind of like having a bank in on a loan with you. I hedge my bets. I have a bank in on a loan with me. They're 70% owner of the property. I'm 30% owner. Think about that. If I get sued, they have a vested interest in making sure that I don't get railroaded or clobbered. Right? So the same thing there with the states. The states that have high property taxes versus the ones that don't, with the exception of New Jersey and Manhattan, high property taxes, right, is largely they identify with the landlords because they want to get their property tax. And if they're not getting paid their rent, they can't get paid their property tax. That's kind of the way that I evaluate it. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. Damn, I don't even know what that super sticker is. I don't even drink coffee. Frida Shea. Hopefully I got that name right. I apologize if I didn't, Frida. But you're new to the show. Thanks for asking the question. Same with you, JRD. I really appreciate you guys. Excited to have you here. Morning, Matt. I'm in Vegas, but have not had time to find positive return on investment rental property, single family home at 3 to 450K. Yep. Based on current pricing, can you share your thoughts on the Vegas market? So that's not the part of the market that I'm looking at. I'm looking at, admittedly, the 750 to 1.5 million. The reason I'm looking as high as 1.5 is I believe that Vegas, in that move up buyer, in that higher, more expensive sector, I believe that those guys likely are going to see a significant decline. That's what I believe. I believe that they're going to be in correction area, which is 10 to 20% in the next 12 to 24 months, and it could potentially exceed that. So if I can buy a house that was worth 1.5 and I can buy it at $1 million, that's why they're in my radar. I want to be seeing also, I want to be training myself 750 to $1 million. What am I really looking at for houses in that ballpark? There's in Summerlin, you could be looking at a 2,400 square foot house for $950. Oh, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And the crazy thing is 2 years ago, that house was $550. So I also look at when, if it was something that sold in the last 2-3 years. Now, sold for $550. Now it's on for $950. Does he take $750 and walk? Okay, then what's he going to go walk and buy with it? And at $750, is that still a decent price for me? Maybe, maybe not. So I'm really, truly evaluating that Vegas market. I think between 350 and 450, I think it's going to be tough to do single family homes that cash flow based on what I know. But I would keep on looking, because my expectation would be if those prices come down, even if rate goes up, your payment's still going to be high. The question is, are houses in Las Vegas now a negative cash flow when it comes to single family homes? I'd be trying to look at dupes, tries, or quads. I know that there's a limited market for that there, but I would be looking for that sort of stuff for sure. Or potentially even look at what like Todd Baldwin does, which is renting out by the room, because that you could probably achieve But you're talking about a much heavier hand as far as more management than what I have to do when I sign somebody to a 1-year lease where I don't have to worry about whether or not they get along with each other kind of idea. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Millennial Mike. I appreciate you, buddy. Except no question. Thanks, guys. Let's see. All-nighter hider. What's up, my dude? I'm here. We can start now. I know. Sorry. I couldn't wait. So I had to start earlier. Keith Hager retired early 2 days ago. Your turn, Matt. YIFI. Absolutely. I'm so psyched for you, Keith. I'm elated. So for me, it's coming. It's coming. Thankfully, I can take the heat. It's all good. So I don't mind waiting until it's like perfect time. Matt Bittner, hopefully Powell will fix inflation and not chicken out and pivot. Yeah, Matt, totally agree with you there. I'm hoping that's the case. I really do. I really do. Rosie Goodwin, good morning. I hope the family's well. Hi, Rosie. The family's doing great. In fact, I think they're outside right now. I can see the reflection in the window. They were outside. They're outside playing in the water. Phil Nealand, did you and Dion ever compare, contrast, recycle capital versus cash flow? Seems like a tortoise versus the other tortoise sort of a race. We've talked about it. Dion and I would do a video like that. Yeah, for sure. I think the big thing is like I think we both recognize what it is and what it does, if that makes sense. So recycling capital turbocharges you. You know, I look at my portfolio and I don't have a ton of money in my portfolio anymore because we've recycled capital. I've pulled my original capital out, but then I reinvested that capital to buy that much more. And so when you want to accelerate growth, you recycle capital. When you don't want to accelerate growth, like I agree with what Dion, based on what Dion's goal was, he did exactly what his goal was. And his goal was really one thing: financial freedom, to be able to do whatever he wants. And so having that equity in the house, he has something that he can tap into if he needs to. But more importantly is, as rents continue to increase, he makes more and more and more return on the capital that he had in the deal. So he's been paid back the capital on all of his deals, I would assume, or pretty darn close. And as that continues to roll, he'll just keep on making more and more, but his 30-year fixed rate debt stays the same. And he got a great low rate, especially on the deals that he's bought in the last 3 years. He did 3 deals in the last 2 years, I think. And so he's got sub 4 loans, sub 4 on those loans. So as rents continue to increase, his numbers just look better and better and better year after year after year. It's really, really impressive, actually. So yeah, happy to do that. Yeah, Dion. Oh, there you go, Dion. Yeah, we'll do that. Dion, I'm game, bub. So yeah, we'll do that anytime. Don and Bev, thanks for the product reviews. Electric deadbolt was helpful. Awesome. I'm glad, Don. Yeah, the electrical series too. I'm going to do a video where it says, here's the $1,000 upgrade that you can make to your apartment that actually will make you more rent on a monthly basis. Your unit will rent out faster. I've seen it. I've looked at my units where I have the exact same unit at the exact same time, at the exact same, one was upgraded, one was not. And I saw what the difference was, or return on those rates, and the return was fantastic. Let's see, Nicholas Massey. When having trouble filling vacancies, what steps do you recommend when lowering requirements? Adding a pet friendly, lowering rent amount, lowering credit score, lowering income requirements? I would not lower any of those things except for the rent. I would not lower, no. Yeah, so Nicholas, that's a really good question, but that's why I would give you that warning. I would absolutely not. Oops, just lost my place. I would absolutely not lower your rental requirements. Nope. The only thing I would do is I would adjust rent. At the end of the day, a bad tenant is a bad tenant no matter what the price is. So you want to make sure, for me, a lot of places will do 2.6 or 2.7 income. I want 3x and I want a 680 credit score or higher. No evictions. And I want to see that they've paid their landlord the last 3 months of their rent. Proof of it. I'm not making an exception on that stuff. Nope. That's how I've gotten through 3 1,000 rental years with 9 evictions. And in many cases, and 7 of those were in one building that a majority of them were in the early 2020. They were during the financial collapse. So they were 9, 10, 11. I was heavily front loaded. We had years where we had no evictions, years. Yep. I think 2012 to 2017 or 2018, I think we had 1 or 2. So we were really loaded in that Great Recession. And frankly, we're ready for it if it happens this time too, but much less likely to happen, I think, this time around. It's Mika C. Hi, Mika. Which do you prefer, HELOC or second mortgage? Second mortgage. It depends on the rate. It depends on a lot of things, but usually second mortgage, because they're not going to shut down a second mortgage. They will shut down a HELOC. The only issue that you might have is loan to value ratios. Loan to values on HELOCs are higher usually, but if you can find somebody on a second mortgage, yeah, maybe probably not the worst thing. Oh, 1999. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I know that helps the algorithm a lot. I appreciate that. Where are we at? Nicholas Massey. You're welcome. You guys can always ask questions in there. Appreciate that, Nicholas. Yeah, don't change those requirements, my man. Don't do it. And I get it. Like, you can have some stuff that might be a little bit vacant, but here's a crazy thing that we've done too. We've also, just like you would sell a house at a bargain price, like you market it lower, you can do the same thing with rents. If you're at 1,300, you could go to 1,100 and get a massive influx of applications, and just look at the 3 criteria that we talked about, which is provide pay stubs, provide your credit score, and then talk to them about, hey, we reserve, we're going to have a ton. And I even put in the ad, we're going to have a ton of responses. So please note that the opportunity to either increase the monthly rent or have a multi-year lease, check your state, make sure that's legal. But we do multi-year leases in some cases here. We just signed one that's a 3-year lease with a bump after 2. I love that. I know that I've got that place rented for 3 years. In fact, to give you an idea, they're going to be paying us about $112,000 over 3 years to rent half of a duplex from us. $112,000. Let me tell you this. Take a wild guess what my mortgage is. My mortgage with taxes and insurance isn't even that much. Now, they're not writing a check up front, but they're on paper for 3 years. We're on paper for what we agreed to. It's pretty dang sexy. Travis Bren, yay Sunday. What's your number 1 go-to upgrade that increases your property value? Great question, Travis. Number 1 is super clean, fresh paint. So super clean, like professional. My people are awesome. So it's immaculate. It's absolutely immaculate. All the paint's been done. And the next thing is lights. I want much better lighting. I don't want that dumb dome light in the middle that drives me absolutely bonkers. We call them the boob lights because sorry if you're offended by that. But not that one in the center of the room. I actually have my electrician take off of that, and I have them do 2 of these lights, or 2 of these lights on each side of it. He sets out a floor plan. 4 of these lights go in that room. We put them on a dimmer switch. That is maybe, with what I pay for everything, that's maybe the cost of about $200 to $250 a room to do this setup in. And so it might not matter a whole lot in the bedroom, but in the main areas, the kitchen, the living room, dining room, if it has one, and then certainly the master bedroom. Yeah. All-nighter hider. Jeff Snyder may disagree. The banks need reserves. Yep, they need collateral. Unfortunately, I don't yet know the financial engineering details to describe it. That's actually what. So yeah, all-nighter hider. That's the issue, is that that's dead money for them. That's why Wells Fargo, when they're like, "Oh, the collapse has begun." No, it didn't. It didn't. Wells Fargo is like the most penalized big bank. They just are. Those are the facts. You can look up all the different lawsuits against Wells Fargo in the last even just 10 years. But if you look at it, they said, we're not getting all of these hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars that we have sitting there in HELOCs. I think it was hundreds of millions. The hundreds of millions of dollars that they had in HELOCs, that was basically dead money. People signed up for a HELOC and then didn't pull anything out, or they pulled out $9,000, but the bank has to cover the reserve $100,000. So that's why they basically went to everybody and said, we're shutting off HELOCs. And everyone's like, the crash has begun. No, it didn't. It was best use of capital. The bank has to get return on their capital and they're borrowing it. They have, their job is to borrow it and then lend it out, or to take it off of deposits, because they get 10x what they have for deposits is how much their rules are, say that they can lend out. But if you've got $500,000 HELOCs out there and no one's pulled any money, you have $500,000 of credit that you have to keep on your balance sheet that doesn't perform. That's not giving you any return on capital. And even though they haven't pulled the money out, you still have to have that reserve because they've been approved for that. So that's why they shut down those HELOCs. Hopefully that helps you. That's all. Hey, Matt, when you underwrite your first ever property, how do you calculate vacancies, repairs, CapEx? Just want to be on the safe side. Yeah, so that differs. That's a tough one for me, Vatzel. And the reason why that's tough for me is because I've completely changed the way I underwrite. I underwrite completely differently now. We have a $50,000 pot that's sitting there for emergencies. And for vacancies, the bank still makes me take 5%, although I've shown to them over the last 5 years, and I can go 10 years back, but I always like to talk in kind of, 5-year terms when I'm talking to the bank and trying to convince them of things. I showed them that in the last 5 years, we've had a less than 0.1 vacancy. Less than 0.1. That means 99.9, I think it was 99.91. That was because we had a few days that were vacant for a property. 99. So they want to carry 5. So it's a better question, Vatzel, of what your bank wants to see. What does your bank want you to carry for that? Because a lot of times they'll say 5% for vacancy. They'll say 10% for CapEx. And that really does range. What I've done is, now that I've built a portfolio, I've gone back to the bank and I've said, no. Here's what it actually is. And they're like, what? And I was like, you guys want to put in a formula there. I'm showing you, because banks are naturally more conservative. They want to lend you as little as possible, but still get the deal done. So they are more conservative. What I've done is I've shown them my vacancy rate is less than 0.1%. Number one, my expenses. So my maintenance costs, we showed them that was right around 3-something%, I think was the number. Now, it wasn't capital projects because we choose to do those capital projects, but of maintenance because there was an issue, because a water heater blew, or a boiler went, or a roof started leaking, we had to replace it, or whatever. Those are the areas where we've gone back to them and said, this is actually what it looks like. These are the real numbers. Now, they then can try and fudge it and say, well, we really still want to see 10%. I've actually argued with them and said 5 is more than enough. 5 is more than enough, because if they build in better assumptions, they are more likely to do a deal with me. They're going to give me better leverage, and I'm not over levering. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm giving them factual numbers. Laziness comes in when these banks just say 10%. Based on what? Well, that's kind of nationally acceptable. Okay. Well, I've got a portfolio where it's not acceptable. For 5 years, I've averaged in the 3s, and you're having me take out 10. Those are the kind of conversations that I have with my bank. I get it. That's when you get bigger. I totally get it. But in the beginning, it's usually that 10% and 5%. And, then there's also like 10% expenses too. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful to you, Vatzel. All-nighter hider. The best emotional support animal is financial freedom, I'm guessing. It's true. And it's also makes the fewest messes in the house. Brian Beck. In a recent video, you described a deal you found while dropping off a check for a different purchase. Yep. If I understand correctly, the property owners are financially distressed and you can help them. That is correct. I actually saw your remark and I was going to wait until you were here because I thought that you would ask. So here I am. All right, so we'll do real quickly. We'll do another classes in session. So class in session on this one. And let me just double check, make sure I didn't miss any super chats. I apologize. Okay, didn't. We're good. All right. So Brian, here's how I did that. I talked with this specific attorney, not only works with investors, but he also is a bankruptcy and restructuring attorney. Okay. Bankruptcy and restructuring attorney. Because he's a bankruptcy and restructure attorney, he is constantly working with couples that may be in a house that they're in financial trouble and they're having to restructure. Chapter 13, not chapter 7, but chapter 13. So they're restructuring. So he then has to work with the bank and they have to come up with terms that are amenable to them. And these particular folks, they're both retired. They're both on Social Security. They have about $6,000 a month of income. They own their house, but they only owe about 40% the value on their house. So the win-win scenario is exactly as I explained in the video, and I'll give you as much detail as you'd like, but the win-win is I can step in and say, I can pay off that mortgage. I can give you 10% from a cushion perspective. So I can do a 50-40-10. We take out the $130,000 in debt. I pay a 10% deposit. Let's say the house is worth $300,000. I'll give them $30,000. Then I have them carry the paper on 40% on the debt, right? So 50% I take out the mortgage, 40% they hold paper as a mortgage on that. I give them $30,000 in cash. That 40% they're going to get income on, but I'm going to rent it. I'm going to lease it back to them. I know it's pretty sexy. So we were talking about how you grow your network. I always tell people what I do. I always tell people. I just do. I always tell them, I'm always communicating. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is who we can help. This is how we can help. He's like, I love this. The attorney's like, I love this. We'll be in touch next week. Awesome. I'm waiting for his call this week and we're going to try and work something out. These guys can absolutely afford it on $6,000 a month. Plus I'm going to be giving them more income with the 40% mortgage that they're going to carry. So what's their net going to be when they have to pay to stay in that house? What's their net outflow? It might be $800 a month. That means their mortgage payment goes down just because they're carrying paper. It means that they could be paying $500 or $600 a month less than what they're paying right now, and they get to stay there. And that's the net of what, they're saving that much more. It's an unbelievable way to help people. And I'm not going out there, ambulance chasing. Although when somebody's in that ambulance and they really do need help, I'm not going to make the decision for them. I'm not going to be predatory. But I am going to lay out the business case. Does this make sense to you guys? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe the deal works out. Maybe it doesn't. I'm okay if it doesn't. But I think based on the numbers that we talked about, because we didn't talk about specific names, we just talked about general numbers. I think I'm going to help them. I think I'm bailing them out, quite frankly. And so we just have to come up to price with what, come to terms with what all that stuff means to each other and what the right numbers are that make the most sense, if that makes sense. So that's how Brian Beck. Brian with a Y. As someone who has owned and worked on many properties concerning personal residence. Oh, I already answered that question for you. Bent Mala has said the majority of his debt is short-term interest only. Right. He is kicking himself for not locking. I wouldn't want to be in that position. So Brian, I agree with you 100-fold. He built one hell of an empire. I think it's $250 million is how big his empire is. But if he is interest only, maybe Ben knows something I don't. It's certainly the possibility, but from the exterior, looking at the math, oh my word, I would not sleep well at night. I would not sleep well. Millennial Mike, I want my lumberjack merch. I'm working today, so I'll be in and out of the live. What are those steps to go from small sized investor, less than 10 units to a big G? Time. I think that there's a lot of people that accelerate that time frame, like Cody and Christian, right? We have a video that we did on the channel. They are awesome. They're a blast to watch. They were super fun to work with. They're really, really sharp. I do have concerns. They've done all that stuff with seller-based financing and private money. When you get into the banking world, they don't like any of that stuff. They really want to see stuff age, mature, see that you have years in a property, see what tenant turnover really is. That's what they want to evaluate. That's how they evaluate if it's a safe asset for them or not. So the best way to go is slow and steady wins the race. Be in your market every single day. And as you master a part of your market and an asset in your market, look at other assets in that market. That's the biggest mistake people make. They look at single family homes in their market and they're like, oh, it doesn't work here. Okay. What did you do? You started looking in other markets. No. Asset in the market in your backyard, then other assets in your market still in your backyard. If nothing works, then yeah, of course, look for other markets. But in those markets, I'm telling you, there's ebbs and flows to it. Single families work for 6, 8, 10 years. Multifamilies work for a part of those 6, 8, 10 years. And then all of a sudden, single families wicked overvalued, multifamilies undervalued. I told you 2s, 3s, and 4s were the best asset in my eyes starting about a year and a half ago. That's one of the very first things I said on One Rental at a Time on Mike Zuber's channel. That's one of the very first things I said. It's those guys. It's 2s, 3s, and 4s because you can do the 4-3-2-1 strategy. Am I biased? Of course I am, because I've seen the numbers. There is no single family house that gives the same rate of return on capital that any of my duplexes do. There just aren't. They aren't. Return on capital, the rock. So what's my best use of capital? My best use of capital is on those assets where I get the best return on capital. But that's just my thought. So I would say the steps are understanding your market, recognizing that an asset works or it doesn't. Then when you've recognized that an asset doesn't, then look at other assets. If it's still a no-go, then you start looking at other markets and understanding those. But then I think it falls into what Millennial Mike knows, which is team. He invests everywhere remotely except for where he's house hacking. So he recognizes what it takes to build a team. And it's hard to build a team. It's hard to build a good, trustworthy, valuable team. So that is a skill that you definitely have to have. Peter Schiff, I'm looking at Big Bear, California. Ooh, okay, short-term rental. Yep, I know Big Bear is very expensive. A lot of celebrities up there. But apparently a November ballot is going to restrict all STR activity. What markets do you recommend? I don't do anything STR, Peter. You know that I'm more than happy to answer your question and help you, but I don't know STR at all. I have some stuff that's going to be perfect for STR, and you know what I'm doing with it? I'm selling it because I think somebody can really do a good job with it STR. This is the thing that concerns me most. These types of communities like Big Bear is very unique. It's beautiful. There's a lot of celebrities that go there to get away. The challenge that you're going to have is the locals there. It's also very expensive, right? That's why STRs work. It's also the reason that you're going to have the most challenge from, there's a lot of attorneys that live there that have that as a second home. I think that there are areas in this market, and the government, right? They want more housing out there in the market. Do you know how many houses Airbnb has right now in just the US alone? How many units? Over 600,000. Imagine if no more STRs were allowed anymore, and now you're pushing them over to that being in the market. 600,000. That's half of our current inventory. That helps partly solve an inventory issue. So I would be very careful with that, because I believe that that is capitalism. And I think that there's a lot of states that don't love that, and they want to have the housing available for people that live in the state. And yeah, that's my feeling on it and why I haven't done any of it. Don and Bev Perkins. Yeah, we put the Decora switches and outlets in our condo we live in, and that might be part of the better valuation. Yep, doing that as part of the turn too. Absolutely. So Don, exactly right. I do these when I turn units. I don't go into existing units and do it because I want to do a bunch of stuff in existing units. So we have 8 or 10 units that are going to come available this year. And when they do come available, we're going to spend, we have kind of our package where we're going in there and for a week, we're going to blow out all the stuff that we do. And then we're going to market that unit and then see, see how we do. We just did that on one unit where when I bought the place, I was renting it for $1,200 a month. I've owned that building for 2.5 years. I just re-rented. We did that. We did paint, we did switches, we did lights. We did some LVP flooring in the kitchen. And we went to $1,795 and it was rented in a day to a great tenant. So, yep, 100%. Let's see. Nicholas Massey, thank you again for the super chat. Nicholas, I appreciate that. We'll get you there. And Lumberjack, you're the man. Thank you very much for helping us, helping people. God bless. You are very welcome. I'm happy to do it. God bless. Back to you. Shirt Lizard Screen Printing. I still love the name Shirt Lizard. Love it. Good morning, Matt. After 20 years of landlording, what is the one thing you would not leave out of your lease agreement? Wow. Shirt Lizard. That is a killer question. The one thing. Making sure it's very clear who the responsibility of utilities is. I would make sure that's something I would make very, very, very clear. Yep. 100%. You gotta make sure it's very clear whose responsibility is what, for sure. Hold on 1 second, guys. Sorry. As I always tell you, I've got guys working out there in the field. Always have guys out there and they're working in the field. I want to make sure that they're not waiting on me for anything. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see, where'd I go? There we are. Sorry. All-nighter hider. When I am hired to do rental turnovers, I make sure to eliminate as many signs of anyone living there previously. Paint helps out a lot. Yeah. So we do all of our paint. We do all of our cleanup, but then we do like a wicked, exhaustive cleanup. Like they have this thing called a stove stone. It makes a stove look absolutely brand new, but you know how long it takes to do that? Usually 2 or 3 hours is what I'm paying for that thing to be cleaned that immaculately. But that's the way they got it. So I want it just as immaculate as the way that they got it. It's the way I do it. So does the tenant pay for that? Yeah, they do, because that's the way they got it. If you didn't spend the time to get it immaculate, if you were vigilant at cleaning your stove and always got it clean, some people are like, well, that cleaning fee is outrageous. It's not outrageous. It's not at all. You got it that clean when you moved in. I want it that clean when you leave because that's the rule. And so if we've actually had somebody, that rented a place, their cleaning fee was $75. That's it. It's all it was. It was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. Their cleaning fee was $75. They sent 3 people to go clean. They said, yeah, we were there for about a half hour. Awesome. Awesome. Actually, a little bit more than that, but about 45 minutes. They're about $35 an hour per cleaner. So it's a little over $100 an hour for 3 cleaners, but they went in there and they're just like, yep, we went through everything. Everything is really very clean. They basically had to stone the stove a little bit, but that's how, yeah, it's awesome. It was awesome. Let's see. Tom Kine. Hey, all. Good afternoon. Glad to be here with you. Good to have you there, Tom. All-nighter hider. Welcome, Tom. That's right. We're a good community here. Elise, fire me, please. Good morning. Hit that like button, people. Thank you very much, Elise. I appreciate it. Karen Molnar took back the message, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me like it does Dion. Donna Bev Perkins, we love our painter. Our turn is paint, electric door lock, and switch outlet update. Perfect. Replacing the boob light is one we hadn't thought of. Yeah, so guys, that's the way that you get up into that next echelon, right? That's one of the big things it takes out of looking dated, right? Your kitchens, your baths, they can make it look dated. But if you've done paint and then you've done all the outlets, if you just do that lighting, man, it makes it pop. Especially with us, we like to use like a medium gray, and then we like to get the bright white. So yes. Karen Molnar, sorry for the retraction. No worries. Hit the wrong button. All good. When you were just starting out, what upgrades were the most important compared to what you do now? Thanks for all your content. You're very welcome. So it was really that stuff. It was switches. It was light plates. It was outlets. We absolutely would always paint. We'd always make it clean and immaculate. You'll be surprised how many times people would say, you know, it's dated, but man, it's clean. It's immaculate. It's like almost no one's ever lived here. Like it's just a huge win. So yeah, we love to do that. But that's where I would focus. REI Stoners, morning, Mike. Do you have one of those digital business cards? If so, which one? Me, I'm Matt, but that's okay. REI. Yes, I have. Me personally, and I overspent, admittedly. I bought the OVOU card. Me personally, I overspent. I wish that I had bought the ones that I recommended, because they were much less expensive and they deliver all the same functionality. If I had it to do over again, I'd use a Powell or a Link. I'd use one of those. The only reason that I bought the OVO was because it let me do a brand on top of it, but it was $200. It's just not, to me, it's not worth it. If I had to do over again, that's what I would do. Let's see. Matt Bittner, do you get any reason for why you had to pay $8 per gallon for heating oil? 8 seems excessive. That was the only number. Great question, Matt. That was the only number that they would lock in at. That was the issue. And I won't lock in at $8. So I just told them, I said, I guess I can't lock in. They go, nope, I guess not. So we have a call. So that was 2 people. I've got 2 more calls out. I'm waiting to see if they're willing to give me a lock. Because I'd also told them that I was willing to buy 5,000 gallons up front, and then just pick the address in which we deliver them. So yep, already did that for sure. Robert Farinelli, hey Matt, found some time to move in. Fantastic. Dividend Dave, any advice on ordering repairs for a unit at long distance? Dividend Dave, thanks again for the super chat. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. We want to get this out there and push it out to as many people as possible. So I appreciate everyone that did a super chat. I really do. And Dividend Dave, thanks again for that. Ordering repairs for unit long distance. I think the challenge, so I recognize the challenge when you're doing it long distance is that there's more costs involved with everything that you do. Totally get it. And if it's a single family home, it can wipe out your profits even faster. Totally get that too. I think that people on an individual basis have to really kind of feel it out for themselves. What feels right? What doesn't feel right? What do I have the money to do? And I think that, when you get a capital fund, that you're starting to that's getting a little frothy. There's, thousands in there. And I don't think I really need that thousands right now. So let's do like $1,000 upgrade because we can probably get an extra $50 or $100 a month in rent. And so we'll pay ourselves back in a year and a half. So I still think financially that has to be the valuation. I think Dion and I talk a lot about, he has some units that get exactly the same amount of rent as some others that are completely upgraded. I think you really have to know your market cold, because I haven't seen that in my market. And it's not to say that it doesn't exist. I just haven't seen it. A clean but dated unit always gets a reduction in price to the beautiful clean unit. And for me, we spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a turn. When it's a unit that I inherited, I'll spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a turn. And the reason that I'll do that is because usually my rents are going from, $1,200 or $1,300 to $1,600. Well, I can pay that turn back in less than 2 years. that's a good use of capital. And that person, if I do those nice enhancement things, they're going to stick around longer. That's what I want. I want them to stick around longer. I'm telling everyone that I want, let's see, REI Stoners. I'm telling everyone what I want to do. Yep. But buying Zuber's one rental hat will help spark conversations. I think so. Yeah. Any strategy, anything that differs you apart certainly does. I think that that's the key. Need a lumberjack shirt now. They will be on the site, I think, this week. So yeah, and then anybody that does a super chat today, I'm going to put their name in a hat, raffle it, and basically come up and somebody will win a shirt with that. And if you want me to sign it, I'm happy to sign it. Dr. Ron Paul. Hey, brother, with home builders slowing down to match market conditions, do you foresee any possibility that builders will pivot operations to smaller starter homes instead of mid-move up properties? Dr. Ron Paul, number one, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have you here. I'm a big fan. And your son's a spitfire too. I don't. And here's why. So in my area, and it might differ for other places, and don't worry guys, if I didn't get your question, I will go back up. I just want to make sure that any super chats get answered first. I think they don't. In my area, here's my reasoning. In my area, a 1 acre lot is what's required to build a new home in these neighborhoods. So a 1 acre lot is what's required. Well, that lot price is worth probably $200,000. Okay. And so you're instantly at 200 grand just for the land. Now let's start calculating. You are $15,000 for what's called an impact fee, $215,000. You are another $10,000 for a sewer connection fee, $225,000. Survey plans, road. If you have, let's say it's a skinnier lot, you might have 100 feet of frontage on that. The road in front of that house is $1,000 a foot. 1,000 a foot. So 100 times 1,000 is another 100,000. So you're at 215, you're at 225, add another 100,000 in for the road. Getting expensive, eh? So before you get there, again, my territory, my area, you are typically going to be 300, 3.25 into any lot, into any buildable lot that you create between utilities, connections, impact fees, and lot fee or lot cost. $300,000. Can you put a 1,500 square foot house? Well, here's the thing. They're putting 1,700 square foot houses on those. I think that's kind of a starter home, 1,700 square feet. Again, between 1,000 and 1,700 is really kind of a starter home. It can be a bigger, at 1,700, you're a bigger 3-bedroom. At 1,000 or 1,100, you're a smaller 3-bedroom in a lot of cases. But that house is $750,000 compared to a 1,700 square foot home that might be 30 or 40 years old is $450,000. That's why me personally, I don't think that builders are going to be able to afford to build like that because the cost of building is so expensive, not just the materials, but because you can save on those when you're building something smaller. The cost is approvals, architectural drawings, the road, the surveying, the approval process for attorneys. I had a friend of mine who just went through the process of getting a building approved. And this is just in engineering and not the land price at all, just the engineering price. And it was a 16-unit building. They were $100,000 into engineering plans and drawings and attorney's fees for getting it approved. $100,000. Now you spread that over the 16 units. That's fine, right? So you're talking about $6,000 and change a unit, $6,250. Great. But that's $6,250 for just what they paid to get it approved. That doesn't include because all those impact fees still apply. $15,006. It's another $25,000. So again, before he's all said and done, he's got $35,000 per unit built in just in fees. So hopefully, Ron Paul, hopefully that answers your question. I'm happy to give you a follow-up. But that's the way That's the way I look at it. Oh, Tom Kine. I'm sorry. I missed that. Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. Get that merch. I appreciate that, Tom. Appreciate that very much. Show business cards. Dave. Price owners. Angel R. Hey, Matt. Where do you buy your wood siding boards from? HD and Lowe's don't have them. Will likely have to rip the entire thing and put on siding. Lumberyard. Talk to some lumberyards. Yep. In fact, Angel, if you feel like giving it out, I will give you some ideas. Put down in the chat below where you're located in the country. Tom Kine, thank you again for that. I appreciate the super chat and it pushing the algorithm. Although it's kind of funny, it's having the reverse effect. It's not pushing the algorithm at all. We usually have 70 or 80 people watching. We've got 40. Lots of people out there hiding, or they just don't want to get rich. Robert Farinelli, opinion on pre-buying propane offered at $4.20 a gallon for $400 with a 75-cent penalty if I don't use 90%. If I don't use 90%. 420. Ooh. What's it at right now, Robert? It is too much for my IBC with blown in fiberglass in the walls, or just enough right now. Propane is at 335. That is the question, eh? Geez, I don't know, Robert. I'm not a futures trader, but that does bring a very interesting question. Wow. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I don't have an answer for you. Also, how to deal with propane company filling the wrong tank. That's on them. Just fight them. Just fight them back. Or if they don't, get them to agree to give it to you at a discounted rate, and then you just get it at a discounted rate. That's the only thing I've been successful with in the past. It's their fault, but they won't come and pull it back out, but you're going to need it in the tank anyway. So just get a discounted rate. I think I got like half price. Yeah, that's their fault. Just tell them I'm going to another company. You guys can't even get the tank right. Bye. Tom Kine, my nephew is getting pre-foreclosure and reselling on a note. Okay. I told him he needs to keep some to build generational wealth. He found me one in my market 800 miles away from him. Awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to look at it in a bit while listening to you. Need some Eye of the Tiger in the background for my first seller finance deal. It's a true story. That's exactly what you need. I think you're nailing it, Tom. That's awesome. I hope you get it, man. I hope it's an awesome deal for you. That's really good. Yeah, those seller finance deals are I'm working. I'm trying. Might have a good avenue to get some done. So we'll see. RE3. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, Hyder. Yep. Good to have you in the house, RE3. I'm sorry, RE3. I've been trying to connect with you. The last 2 weeks have been nuts, but I want to set up a time. My schedule is very regimented, and that's the only way that I can actually get through my life. And so I'm trying to find that pocket where I can get some time with you, because I definitely want to connect with you. Robert Farinelli. Again, thank you, Dr. Ron Paul, for the super chat. That's awesome. So I finally got my checks for rental assistance. So do I give the eviction notice for December 1st and have the reason being under other good cause being end of lease? You can. Are you planning on rehabbing the unit at all? REI Stoners, thanks so much for the tag and for the super chat. I'll add you to the list, my man. Perfect. I will make sure I'm not going to miss you, because I don't know when the thing finishes, if it gives me the list. So that's why, if you're wondering why I'm being goofy and taking my own list, that's why I'm being goofy and taking my own list. All right. So you can do that, Robert. You can also do so with those folks. I'm doing taking it back to rehab it legally. I'm not lying. I'm actually going to take the unit back, and when I get it back from them, I'm going to rehab it. So the best thing that you can do in that particular case is that will get heard by a judge. When that does get heard by a judge, you want to make sure that you have some quotes and things based on the work that you want to have done. So that's one of the things I would recommend if you try and go that route. All-nighter hider. The only politicians I don't dislike are the Pauls. I can feel that. Yeah, I can feel that. Yep. I think they're the most honest of the bunch. That's what I think. Keith Hager at Dr. Ron. If the states and federal legislatures offered incentives to builder and easier bank and business incentives, they would build sooner. That's true. Keith, the biggest issue I think is state. I don't think it's federal. I think the biggest issue is state. So everybody says affordable housing. Not in my backyard. You try and go get it approved and they're like, nope, not there. What? How about over here? Nope, not there either. What about over here? No. So the biggest issue is in our area is getting the land to do that and getting the state or the town, city, municipality to approve allowing you to do it there. Because a lot of the high density land is gone in the Northeast. A lot of it's gone. And so that's the biggest challenge. And I say to them, you need another freaking shopping center? No, you've got 4 grocery stores within 3 miles of here. Let's use the land to build workforce housing. So we've had those conversations. I'm trying to get it done, but yeah. I will tell that story. Sorry, I had to think about whether or not I should tell this story. Here's the story. I had a building that I own. It's a great building. It is perfect for a daycare, and we have a massive shortage of daycare here in our area. I want to help out. So I want to put in a daycare. There's a bunch of apartment buildings around this place. It'd be a great business. I want to hand it over to an operator that can operate the daycare and do what they need to do. So I start going down the path. City says, we think that's a great idea. I was like, I do too. There's a massive shortage. Every single daycare around here has a 2 to 3 year wait. Think about that. So I said, so if we open that up, day one, we're full, right? Day one, we're full. They think it's a great idea. I say, okay, you guys own a lot next to my building. I want to buy that lot and turn it into a playground. There's a bunch of apartments there. So I want to turn that into a playground, but one that obviously during the day, the kids from the daycare can go over and use, but we'll also make it a public playground. And I'm not asking for any money. I'll take care of it. I'll pay for everything, but I just need you to sell me that piece of land. They said, okay, we'll allow you to bid it. So I bid it. And so I won. The city awarded me the right to develop on that land. It was then contested. They then brought a lawsuit, this person contesting it, a-hole, brought a lawsuit to make sure that the city didn't sell me the land. And the city said, we're not going to sell you the land. I was like, I won the bid. How can you do that? They said, we reserve the right to retract. And I was like, why are we not fighting this? They're like, we're not going to get into a legal battle with this person. Turns out this guy is also a landlord here. And he built none of it himself. He inherited it from his daddy. And quite frankly, he's a real prick. And I saw him and I said, let's just try and work something out. I said, you have a bunch of units there that have kids. It'd benefit the people that are there to have a playground that they can play on. I said, I'm willing to put in all the money. I said, what's the issue? He goes, I don't want that there. I don't want that there. I'm like, right now it's just full of trash that your tenants throw in it. And I have to keep on cleaning it up because it's next to my building. Yeah, don't care. That was his answer. So the lesson that I learned in that is that cities will not fight for what's right. They'll only go for what's easy. And moreover is the golden rule really still does apply. He who has the gold makes the rules. And that guy had them cowering where they withdrew that bid for me and I lost. I couldn't, still to this day. So I kid you not, that landlord is very old. literally waiting for nature to take its course. And then I will petition the city again to try and get that lot, because he's about 34, 35 to 40 years older than me. So he's in his 80s. I'm not praying for his demise. I'm just saying that when nature does take its course, that's the first course of action I will take is, and he's decently known, so it will be in the paper, and I will petition the court the next day, 100%, because kids need that playground there. There's nothing for those kids to go to in that area, nothing. And that would be a huge benefit for them, and the daycare center would be a huge benefit. All-nighter hider. The like button wants to be poked like a Pillsbury Doughboy. See, I didn't even take offense to that. But yes, I appreciate you guys hitting the like button. All-nighter hider. Daycares, and again, REI Centers, thank you for the tag and for the $199. Daycares have a low margin. Yep. But the state should have a program that reimburse providers for nutritious food they buy. Yep. My mom has worked for child nutrition program for some 37 years. 1,000% agree with you. 1,000% agree with you. So anything that we would do is done with excellence. We actually have other daycare owners that are really good operators. And so it is a low margin business. As expensive as it is a low margin business. But what's really interesting is we would actually try and partner with the hospital because the hospital is the main source of children that we would be watching, if that makes sense, the majority of their workers, because the hospital has a daycare, but it's not big enough for all the kids of all the nurses that they have. So that's where we would kind of come in, help augment that. But in partnering with them, we could say, let's go next level. Let's really do this in a great way. But again, to that point, it's not going to make me a lot of money. It's just really about trying to help the community and do some cool stuff in the community. Ironwood Workman. I love the name. Thanks for attending. I know this is the first time you've asked a question, so I appreciate it. Low income housing turns great neighborhoods into ghettos. Build the low income housing in the ghettos. That being said, give tax free to factories, businesses, etc., that build in that same location. So opportunity zones kind of do that, depending on how the state has set up the opportunity zone. I think that certainly, you see the projects, right? That there have been some issues across the country in the projects across the country. So in part, I agree with you. I think the challenge is that the government has proven time and time again that they're bad at building affordable housing. They're bad at managing that affordable housing. So I think what you always have to do is you have to find a combination of government and private sector and find something that works then for everybody, which is one of the big things that I've seen most recently is a lot of the big time guys that are that next step up from me. A lot of the big time guys what the big time guy, he goes through 2 or 3 years to develop any project. And then he comes up with the exact percentage of low income housing that needs to be in the building. So he gets these massive tax credits for the rest of the building. Over time, that is the best way to solve it. But immediately, here's the biggest challenge. Affordable housing often, and this isn't a stereotype, these are just my numbers that I'm sharing. All of my affordable housing is either a single mom or a single dad with kids. Each one of those kids costs $14,000 per year to send them to the public school from the taxes in the city. So when they have 2 kids, that's $28,000. The tax income on that building is $2,000, or on that unit is $2,000. That means it's going to be a negative $26,000 if costs don't go up for the entire lifespan of that child being in school all the way up through from kindergarten up to high school. That means that it's unsustainable. Moving forward, that's unsustainable. So I think that I'm always open to trying to find out what that answer is, but I look at that and say, that's largely unsustainable. even people that are buying $450,000, $500,000 3-bedroom homes or 4-bedroom homes, mom and dad in one or parents in one, excuse me, and then 3 kids, right? 14 per, that's 42. The biggest that tax bill is going to be on that house is 15. You're negative $27,000 a year on those kids going to school. So the model isn't sustainable. So we have to figure out a better way of doing it. Because I can tell you, I pay $250,000 a year in municipal taxes, and I have 0 tenants with kids in that school system. We pay for garbage. The only thing that gets them is a library card. I could buy them a server and put the Library of Congress on the server for less than $250,000 a year. And because we pay for water, sewer separately, right? And police obviously is part of that. But yeah, it's a crazy number for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think the factory thing, the challenge is, I've seen, we had decent manufacturing in New Hampshire, and I think a lot of it's gone away, sadly. We're kind of overflow for Massachusetts on taxes. I mean, on tech, a lot of tech. Robert Farinelli, what are the steps to getting windows by winter? Would my best bet be the window place in Auburn? Yeah, I would make that call. Yep, I want to make sure a place is well insulated. Yeah, I'd make that call. You might not be able to get it done before. I mean, let's see, September 1st. Yeah, it'd probably be close. It'd probably be close. If they're coming in to do that work, they're going to do a lead test, just so you know. Be aware that's going to happen. All-nighter hider. But Matt, some guy wrote a comment that you're all about the money. Could he have been wrong? LOL. Yes, he could have been wrong. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that have opinions. And the reason I constantly make the Michael Jordan comment isn't because I think I'm the greatest basketball player of all time, which Michael Jordan was, because I certainly am not. But I'm not the greatest investor of all time either. However, it puts in people's minds an understanding, which is people that are in the game. If I said, trying to think. If I said Pritchard, he's a player that gets a few minutes a game, right? If I said Pritchard, no one would get it. But when you say Jordan, people get it. Everybody knows who Michael Jordan is. Don't listen to people that don't have skin in the game. They don't know what they're talking about. They haven't done the work that you've done on a daily basis. People that are sitting there rooting for my demise. I was on, in fact, Bittner saw this. Matt Bittner saw this. I was on Uneducated Economist. People were like, you're going to fail. You're going to go to business. How would you know? People that watch me 3 hours a week don't even know my financials. How would you know? You know nothing. And here's what I will bet you. You own nothing. You'll be lucky if you own your house. And because you watch a lot of YouTube, doesn't make you an expert in this field. I've been doing the business for 20 years. I know exactly what my risk tolerance is. I know what my bank balances are. I know what my cash burn is. I know I've modeled out a bunch of stuff. I'll be okay. Worry about yourself. I'll be fine. But I appreciate your concern. But that stops some people in their tracks from making decisions. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't do it. Based on what? Based on what? Are they super wealthy? Have they reached financial freedom and they do whatever they want? Do they get pictures of the Pink Panther sent to them on a daily basis? Do they? I think that everybody needs to take a breath. And at the end of the day, again, just take a breath. Do your own work. Do your own research. And if you're buying a great deal that gives you great returns, does it matter what the price is? Does it matter what the rate is? It matters only what that return on your capital is. Dion Talk Financial Freedom. I am all about money. Anybody who says they aren't is lying to himself. If you want to do good things, it's going to take some money. I don't disagree with that. I'm not all about money, but I do like money. I don't love it, but I like it. I have some. I'd like to have more. That's kind of where you guys come in. And again, it's time, right? It's time. I'm going to put time into building a course. That course is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to help people make tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have to charge something for the time, the course, the effort, and my 20 years of experience. I have to monetize that. I don't look down on guys that do that. I look down on the guys that are charging $10,000 and $20,000 to get people into those things. I don't like that. So I can promise you this, my course will not be $10,000 or $20,000. Let's see. All-nighter, Angel R, robot vacuum. I said this the day that they were acquired. I didn't do it publicly. I wished I had. For those of you who don't know, Amazon bought iRobot. iRobot makes the Roomba vacuum. The Roomba vacuum, the higher end echelon models, they actually draw a floor plan. You can actually sign up for it. It will actually create a floor plan, exact square footage of your house. That's a little scary. So Alexa, I just made somebody's Alexa go off. With that robot vacuum, that is very, very, very scary. Very scary. They can have an exact schematic of the floor plan of your house because they bought that. They got hundreds of thousands of robot customers for the Roomba. For what it's worth, I said that a while ago. It's a little bit scary. Let's see. Janelle Diaz. Yes, excited the merch will be available soon. Don't know if you ever heard you explain it before, but why you call yourself the Lumberjack Landlord. So I work in tech. This is a lot of what I wear. Stuff like this. This is a Caterpillar shirt. I wear a lot of Duluth. I wear LL Bean. I like always being ready for a picnic to break out. This is how I've created the life that I have. I always want to be ready for a picnic. So by having flannel, you do that. So I went to work one day. I wasn't wearing a business attire shirt. I was wearing a flannel. I show up wearing the flannel. And by wearing that flannel, everybody started calling me lumberjack because I worked in the city. And I drove about an hour to and from work every day, 82 miles actually each way. So it was about an hour and a half. And so they started calling me lumberjack. And so that name just stick. The beard, I still had the beard at that time. I had the flannel. Everyone called me lumberjack. I always would tell them you only have to call me the guy on the leaderboard. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. I had a great sales career. It was so much fun to work in the bullpens with these guys. But that name sort of stuck. And so then when thinking of a channel, I just added the landlord piece to it because that's what I am. I'm a landlord. And so lumberjack landlord, that's how it came about. Ironwood workmen. Yep, I agree. The government does not know how to build low-income housing. Yep, it looks like a prison. Yeah. Plus, they cannot budget. Yeah, there are always massive overruns. They always spend too much. I'm not sure about the cost burden. Yeah, the cost burden it's scary bad. It's scary bad. Yeah, it's scary bad. And then then they have to build. And then what happens is then they have an influx of students. Then they have to rehab the school and then watch the cost. I mean, it's just through the roof. All-nighter hider. Money is a necessary tool. Yep. Tools can be used good and bad. Yep. Regardless, it's necessary. 100% agree. Yep. 100% agree. Yep. I always tell Ashley, my wife, I said, I use my powers for good, not for evil. She goes, thank God. Yes, she's seen me a couple times where I just had it with somebody. And then she was like, yeah, glad I love you. Yeah. Yeah, crazy. Ninja Vanish 24/7. I just got here a couple of minutes ago. It sounds like some people are just miserable if they are rooting for your demise. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of so I like one of the guys that I like watching is Gary V. We have kind of the same background. Immigrant parents, mine were immigrant grandparents, his were immigrant parents. Came over, had to learn, he came over, working in his dad's business. I didn't have that opportunity, I couldn't get into the family business because there wasn't one. But very much of what we taught was very much immigrant mentality. Super hard work. They really value education. I didn't go. And just really super hard workers, working smarter, not harder, but still working just as hard. That way the smart really has that much more of an impact. Kind of to a certain degree in my 20s, it was hustle porn. It was constantly working 100 hours a week all the time. Wanted to be number one, got to number one, was that for, 2 decades in my career. And kind of had done all that stuff. And so I kind of steal a page from his book, which is, you want to vote for my demise, back yourself out. It's not you voting for me or rooting for me to fail, whatever. It says a lot more about you than it does about me. And at the end of the day, I don't sweat you. I don't listen. I'm not listening. And if I do listen, or if I hear it, I'm not heeding it. I'm not heeding it. What have you accomplished? What have you done? Where are you? I didn't bump into you at the last, Mensa meeting. Where are you? So at the end of the day, I think it really just comes down to, it's lonely at the top. I've gotten used to it. I have some friends that since becoming pretty, successful, I don't talk to anymore. And I have others that I talk to that much more often because we're with each other. I love working with Dion. I love working with Millennial Mike. I love working with Zub. Love working with Simon from Uneducated Economist. He's such a great dude. I'd honestly hang out with him for 3 or 4 hours, like all day long. I would so hang out with that dude. I really like him as a person. I really dig him. I love getting the chance to work with him. So yeah, they can root, I mean, I think it just is what it is. There's always going to be, haters of the world. There's always going to be people that think you suck. I'm too aggressive. I'm too mean. I'm too arrogant. I'm too this. I'm too that. I believe that false humility is arrogant. Oh no, I'm not that successful. No, I am. I know that a lot of people would love to have as much as I do. It's not lost on me at all. I'm humbled by that. Not, yeah, I'm sort of good. No, I'm really good at what I do. And if anything that I've done in my career can help somebody else because they listened and they said that kind of fits me and kind of fits my pocket. Yeah, like that's what gets me jazzed, man. I want to see people get their first deal. I want to see people get that financial freedom. I want to see people go, holy cow, I saw this work. I can be rich. I can create generational wealth. Man, that's just awesome. That's why I love that stuff. That's why I love it. So I appreciate you saying that, Ninja. And yeah, quite frankly, they can suck it. I really don't care. A bunch of posers, whatever, oh, you're wrong. Okay. Based on what you're feeling. Okay. You can have your opinion. Can't fix it. At the end of the day, I got really successful by watching other really successful people and imitating what they did and understanding how they thought. Once I understood how they thought, I could then create filters that gave me the ability to make those decisions in snapshot. And then you just do it. Then it's just repetition over and over and over and over and over again. And yeah, so at rehabbing a unit, yeah, I'm pretty good. I've done it 80 times, 90 times. If I was bad at it still, I need to give up, but I'm pretty good at it. So I want to help you guys however I can help you guys. And so if you ever have a question, I'll tell you honestly, and that's the contract that we have with each other, is that I'll just tell you the truth and take it or don't. Matt Bittner, when the strategic petroleum reserve stops getting drained, I bet oil blows past 100 easy. Yeah, I agree. Yep, I agree. Not an oil futures guy, but it seems like common sense to me. I don't know why people more aren't talking about it. China's still got massive lockdowns, and so their use of gas is way down. I don't see when they start opening up, I don't see that doesn't make a massive impact on the global scale. I don't see how it's not. I don't see how it doesn't hurt people. And that bothers me. Like we're having to go through, and for our tenants, where we're paying for their fuel. I explained this in a video. We're actually proactively calling them saying, and then sending them a letter saying, okay, we are not going to be paying for your oil this year. because we know that they have access to that fund if they're tenants. A landlord doesn't. I don't want to increase the rent. I'm not trying to put financial hardship on them. I'm trying to look out for them. So I think if you always have that approach of trying to do the right thing, I think the rest, just kind of comes together for you. Shelly Sherry. Hey, Shelly, thanks for asking a question. Aren't floor plans public info? So boxes, yes. But real floor plans, no. Some of them, some are, if you look up blueprints and things like that, but on a tax card, it's usually just blocks with some very general measurements. What this will actually give is a true schematic of even how your furniture is laid out. No joke. So they can then recommend product. That's my prediction on 115 of 828. I gotta write that down. That's my prediction. I think that they use that to then sell you products. And here's why. If they know how big your couch is based on the schematic that your Roomba's laid out, they know how big your chair is, if they know how big your wall is, right? Based on them not bumping into anything. Or then recognizing that that Roomba actually knows that it's up against an edge, it's up against a piece of baseboard. It actually knows. Think about that. Think about then how they can market to you, right? Oh, well, your couch is this size. Maybe you want a bigger couch because I see that you have 1.5 feet on both sides of it. Bigger couch, bigger TV, adding another chair, giving an idea for a bigger dining room table. Shelly, what do you think about that? I'm interested in somebody else's perspective. I think that's where that leads to. Tom Kine, I can super chat 2x for 2x to go into the pot. Go for it, Tom. I don't mind that at all. I don't mind that at all. If you want more chances, I'm all for it. It's all about that algorithm for Google, making sure people know that we're doing some fun stuff over here. Angel R, I'm located in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, Woodside in response. Angel, dude, you're in like the perfect area. I would be calling all the lumber yards, and I would be looking on Craigslist, because I guarantee you there are sawmills, local sawmills that are much smaller. Real quick story. So I was in the same position. This was specifically on cedar shakes. When I went into Home Depot, they were sold out. Finally, they had them and they were ridiculously priced. I want to say they were like $42 a bundle, something crazy like that. $42 a bundle. I called the local small sawmill place, and he goes, yeah, he goes, my costs have really gone up a whole lot for doing those. He goes, we can do those for $24 a bundle. $18 a bundle. I needed like 40 bundles. I saved myself $600. $800, $700 actually is the real number. But think about that. So I would look at Craigslist, and I would look at Facebook Marketplace, look for local sawmills, look for those, because if they have that machine that can make that clapboard, if they have that machine, then they churn that stuff out and you can get bundles cheaper. Let me know how that works out for you. Hopefully that answer helps you. Ironwood Workman. The reason I'm watching your show is because you were talking smack about you on, because people were talking smack about you on Ben Mala's show. Funny that. Ironwood, I appreciate that. So tell me, so they were talking smack about me. Do I have street cred, right? You tell me. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm still a putz in your eyes. It's all good. I'm fine with that. But you tell me, based on what smack they were talking to me in the show and what I was saying back, you tell me who gave you more information. Nicholas Massey, Matt, how do, let's see. Matt, how do second homes work? For instance, your Vegas home, do you leave it empty half the year and continue to pay the bills, security system, house mortgage work on it? So mortgage is exactly the same. It's still a second home. Banks sometimes in economic difficulties, or economic market difficulties, they'll add points, like a half a point or a point to the mortgage, because it is a secondary home. For us, we will use it 4 months a year. I'm still deciding on whether or not we would rented out the other 8. I'm working with a couple of realtors out there and just having with my main realtor just saying, is this something I can even rent out? Or maybe potentially I do STR or midterm, like 3 months at a time, where I then don't have a $0. So most people will leave their houses vacant. Some will do this. I just have to figure out tax ramifications, real cost, because I wouldn't have anything to do with hosting it, super hosting it, none of that stuff. I would literally give all that responsibility to somebody else and say, here's your cut. You run it like you own the property. I want them to be incented to do that and hustle. And for me, any money that I get back on it is a return, is just a return for me. And the question is, do we use it any time during the year? Maybe, maybe not. And that's where kind of the question comes into play is, would we go out any time other than the 3 or 4 months a year that we go out? So that's a great question. Great question, Nicholas. Great question. All-nighter hider. Matt, your genuine nature is obvious as well as Mike and the Amigos. Good. You guys are great and have earned my loyal support. All-nighter hider, I appreciate that. I fashioned you to be an intelligent person. And now I like you that much more. But you're a smart guy. I see your responses to things. I see that you take the time in giving a response, but I can tell that you're also an educator, i.e. you educate yourself to have those responses. And I think that that's majorly lacking in YouTube chat rooms around the world. But I appreciate that. Dividend Dave, when that guy dies, buy the land, put up a playground and name it after him. That's pretty funny. I would probably, I don't want my name on it. That I can tell you. I don't want my name on it. I probably wouldn't put his name on it. I would put somebody else's name on it though, for sure. 100%. But I don't want my name on it. That is not how I roll. That's just not my gig. I would, yeah. Yep. Yeah, there will be, when we do that, because it's not an if, we will do that. And when we do, I'll definitely put something, it'll definitely be somebody's name on there for sure. There's a lot of people that are, like great teachers in our city or in our town, great teachers, ones that are real standouts, ones that gave to, a lot of kids and put a lot of time and effort and energy into the kids. And teaching's really, really hard. My mom was a teacher for a number of years before she became a real estate agent. And so I have the utmost respect for teachers, for a lot of teachers. There's some that just should not be doing the work, but there's a lot of great ones for sure. Anna K, good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon, Anna K. Angel R, thank you. You're welcome. Angel, truly, dude, let me know how that goes. I want to get a response back from you. I want to know if that helped. I think it does. But that's what I did. That saved me a ton of money on those shakes. And they had them in stock, and because they're making them, and yeah, then you've got expand that network. But I'd make a dozen calls all around. I really want to know how that goes. So please let me know. All-nighter hider. That's an awesome idea, Dividend Dave. It really is. Yeah. I would just don't want to give the guy a second because he's a complete egomaniac. And you know what's funny? I think the city might outlaw it because they get in fights with him all the time. Let's see. Jeremy Kirkwood. Hey buddy, sorry I'm late. Ben Mala beef. No. I like Ben. Must have run out of people to sink in barrels in Lake Mead. Yeah. I tell you, with that flash flood that they got, the water level came up like a few feet. Obviously Lake Mead is something with Vegas. I'm obviously watching for 100%. I'm definitely watching it. But no one really has the answer. And there's so much, like Arizona takes money, our water off of like Lake Powell, which is further upstream. And then it's a big thing. In fact, best video I've seen done on any of it was Brian Lebo, who is my agent in Las Vegas. I actually met him before I met Mike Zuber. But Brian Lebo had a video on it. It's spectacular. You should absolutely watch it. Jeremy Kirkwood, isn't the point of 90% YouTube courses that are paid is to frustrate newer investors into syndications that the course owner happens to run? Yeah, maybe. I think it's probably it could be a good feeder potentially for sure. There's some stuff out there that I've seen where I was just like, I mean, I guess if that works for you. The challenging thing for me is it's very, very different. What Mike's done in creating a buy box for people, I think is spectacular. But for me, I'm just a very different approach where I need to understand, generally speaking, those numbers. But when it comes to house hack, especially multifamily, and then being a self-managing landlord, my focus is going to be all around that process: renting, repairs, maintenance. Maintenance is different than repairs. Understanding your, the building itself, how to make sure that you're getting the most out of the building. That's the area that I'm really that's the area that I really excel. It's just really where I excel. So that's where I'm going to spend my time. All nighter highlight. I truly appreciate the compliment. Glad I could have fooled you so well. Nah, I've seen the questions. So yeah, I'm not fooled at all. Jeremy Kirkwood, you can put my name on the playground. I have 8 kids. We would be obvious patrons. I don't think you're driving from Indiana to my New Hampshire playground. But yeah, we've got 3 kids and 8's awesome. My buddy has 8. Yeah. I always joke about how when we would go to his house, I was always worried that Lord of the Flies would break out. It's because he has all are boys. All of them are boys. They're about 14 years apart. It's amazing. His wife should be sainted. Ironwood Workman. This is my first show. Cool. But yes, I can tell already that you know more than most people. Thank you. I'm guessing more than 97 to 99%. Okay, cool. Of the people in the US, but I need to watch more shows. I'm with you. Don't make a snap judgment. I'll take 97 to 99. I'll take that. Yeah, I just think that, I'm not an economist. And so I watch what Zub has to say. I watch his input. I watch what Gammon has to say. I watch his input. I watch what UE has to say. He's the one I watch the most. I watch as much content. I do watch a decent amount of Zub's, but I watch probably the most of UE. Simon's just the man. He just is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And so, yeah, I love spending that time watching his stuff. And the 2 interviews I've had with him have been great. I'm surprised more people don't get on his channel and super chat him, because I know he's saved a lot of people money. He saved me money. That's why I don't have any problem super chatting the dude when I have a question. I just think he saved so many people so much money. He saved me money. When we were talking about the lumber market, I was kind of pushing and plowing ahead and saying, yeah, I think this is what we should do. This is what we should do. And then I started listening to him and I was like, okay. And then I started doing more homework and figuring it out. I'm like, okay, I wonder what he thinks about that. Ask him on a super chat. And so I was just like, yeah, I think it's really a supply chain issue. It's not that there's all of a sudden less lumber. I think there's a lot more demand and it's much more of a supply issue. And I think that that's going to come back. And boy, did it ever. And so, yeah, he saved me from plowing forward on a couple of projects that would have cost me a lot more money had I pushed to get them done. So I really just, I really appreciate him as a person. I would hang out with him in 5 seconds. Like if he was just like, yeah, dude, let's go do whatever. I'd be like, yeah, sure. Cool. Whatever. 100%. I just think he's a really good, genuine guy. And he does a lot to help people and help people understand, how the pieces are fitting together. So yeah, genuine guy. I try and catch his live streams as much as I possibly can. Usually the biggest challenge is he does them a lot of times during the day, and I have a real job, so I can't listen to them a lot. But I'm always thrilled when I get the notification. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. He's doing this like towards the end of his day, so I can totally hop on there and listen. I did last night. So yeah, just a great guy. Travis Brent, when is your course coming out? Definitely interested. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate it. It is going to be this year. We've got a syllabus out, and the syllabus is completed, and I'm just waiting for my new studio to be finished to start recording. And the new studio should be finished next weekend. We had a couple of delays, but we got all the delays kind of through them, and now we're just finishing up. But yeah, next weekend, the studio should be We should be live in the, hopefully, I'm hoping next week and we should be live in the studio, in the new studio. New studio is pretty nice. It's going to take some more, you're going to see a different background. But yeah, I'm excited to do that one for sure. And actually we've got 3 backgrounds. Yeah. So I'm excited for what that's going to look like. Matt Bittner, have you ever spoken with Ben Mala? I have not. Nope. Never spoken with Ben. I heard one piece of advice that he gave yesterday that I thought was horrible. In fact, Hyder, were you there? No, Bittner, were you there? Bittner, were you there? And actually Ironwood too. So he had said, somebody super chatted him and said, I'm looking to buy a duplex with 20% down, and the duplex makes no money on a monthly basis, makes no money. Do you think that's a good deal? Do you what? Yeah, like, let me go buy a duplex with 20% down that makes no money. His literal answer was, well, you kind of got to figure it out, maybe kind of depends, and not really sure. And then he actually said, well, it technically will make some money because part of your payment that you're using to pay it down is paying down principal. You said, what? I watched that and I was like, wow, that blew me away. No argument. Mala is brilliant when it comes to management of a massive organization. You guys know what advice I would give. I would not be giving advice to buy anything where you make $0 a month, and that's if nothing goes wrong. And I would not say, but on the good side, you are paying down principal payment. Oh my word. That when he said that, I was really kind of bummed. In all honesty, I sent an email to his channel. We'll see if I get any answer back. All-nighter hider. Simon is another super cool, genuine dude. I agree. Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, I'd hang out with him in a second. Jeremy Kirkwood, being that we remodel similar age bathrooms, yep. Do you refurb as a clawfoot tub or standing shower? How do you decide? Got a bathroom quote for 4K to refurb and new hardware recently. Clawfoot. I hate clawfoots. I hate them. I hate them. As soon as I get a unit back that has a clawfoot in it, I take it out. Take it out every single time. Without exception. I hate clawfoots. People bump into them, people knock them, people fall in them, people slide in them, people knock them with their knee, people accidentally kick the plumbing, people accidentally, will grab a hold of the shower head and it will snap because any of those shower heads for clawfoot tubs are delicate. I hate clawfoot tubs. So I have probably 8 or 10 of them, not in units that I've pulled out of units that are sitting in yards, and I will sell them to the next restoration hardware person that wants them. You can get them refinished. They're usually $500 to $700 to get them refinished. Depending on the company, they can look great. They can also look like crap. Yeah, I just won't do them. I've had way too many instances where people have bumped them, knocked them, fallen on them. The D ring that hangs from the ceiling, the D ring where all of the drapes are held onto. People grab that when they're slipping or when they, have to catch themselves real quick, or, in the bathroom or whatever, and it rips the D ring right out of the roof, right out of the ceiling. And then you're repairing that. Those D ring setups are $150 to $200 for a decent one. Nope. I like nothing about it. It's really easy to bump them and have the drain get a little bit cockeyed. Yep. Nope. So that's how I feel about clawfoot tubs. Keith Hager, do you have any of those lumberjack bobbleheads for sale? I don't. So I am waiting on true disclosure. This is a very expensive bobblehead. This is over $100. We're not going to make these available. They're nice, but they're not $100. That's ridiculous. I'm this person, and I didn't want to spend $100 to have it on my desk, in all honesty. So I worked with a company overseas, obviously. We're working on those numbers. I'd placed an order for a sample
And they have been shut down for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is. They've been shut down. So I have not gotten my sample. So it was like, oh, we think we'll open X. We'll think we'll open X. So I'm kind of tired of the delays. So I'm probably going to find a secondary vendor. This one's super high quality. It's actually not plastic. It's actually more like rubbery. If you can see this moving back and forth. So I really like it, but yeah, I would never, I'm that person and I wouldn't spend that kind of money to have it on my desk. All-nighter hider. Matt loves clawfoot trumps. Don't like them at all. What the crazy thing is that the 5 foot, which is most common, here's a little lesson on clawfoot tubs. The 5 foot, which is most common, isn't really worth a whole lot. But if you get a 4 foot clawfoot tub or a 6 foot clawfoot tub, they are extremely valuable. They're worth about 5 to 6 times the price. Just as an FYI. So if you go into an old home and you see a 4 foot or a 6 foot clawfoot tub, they're worth a lot of money. Especially redone. The 5s, they really aren't. The 5s are, usually, and again, it's just refinishing them. What you also want to do is if you have it refinished, make sure that they put, that when they're spraying everything, they're getting everything clear. Make sure that when they spray the floor of the tub, that they put grit in it. They can put some sand in there and it will actually give you some traction, because otherwise it's like a hockey rink. It's scary. Travis Bren, rad. I have 2 weeks left till I close on number 1. So definitely excited about continuing learning from you and Dion. Awesome. Super excited. Yeah, it's really going to be there to help landlords out. The other thing that's going to be a little different about my course is it's going to have a weekly call where we talk through your issues, what you guys are doing. We're going to do a weekly call, a Zoom call, for everybody to have input and ask and interact. That way we can all make each other better. So that's going to be a part of the course. We're just trying to figure out pricing now, because it's going to be a decent time commitment on my part. And that's where it really kind of falls into play with my retiring and making myself available for that. So yeah, that's the plan. All-nighter hider. We were all there. Yeah, it is. John, Texas. Why are you looking for a personal property in Vegas? We love Vegas. So it's the first vacation. When Ashley, Mrs. Lumberjack, and I, when we were broke as a joke, our very first vacation, it took us 5 years to save up for that vacation. And we did everything. We did that entire trip, including airfare, for less than $1,000 for 4 nights in Las Vegas. And we just had the time of our lives. My wife is a classically trained vocalist. And so she loves the shows. We love concerts. And we love great food. And so some of the best chefs in the world are there in Vegas. So for us, it's really about, and she loves the ridiculous stick me in an oven on broil heat. So she loves that. She absolutely loves that. So the heat, the shows, for me, the conferences, I'm a big guy on information. I love to learn about things. They have the world's largest shows there. I'm a antique motorcycle guy. So Mecum, Christie's, they do a bunch of shows out there for antique motorcycles that I used to fly out for anyway. Conventions, I like a lot of conventions. I'm in the tech industry, so I've been there for 25 years. So I can hit somebody up and say, hey, can I get a pass to go to this, just to see cool stuff. Cool stuff like SEMA is out there. There's just always something to do there. And so, yeah, that's why Vegas for us. We want something that's the complete opposite of the weather that we have in Siberia. Yeah. Yep. So that's why Vegas. Matt Bittner, just Google Soviet apartments. Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah, the beautiful Eastern Bloc. Like, give me a break. Like some of that. I mean, yeah. It's bad. Those places are really bad. We've had Russian developers before, and they're just like, you see the place that they're happy with in the States, and you're just like, And they're like, this is 1,000 times better than home. You're like, oy, that's scary. Let's see. All night hider. I didn't know that about off-size clawfoot tubs. Good to know. Thanks. Yeah, you're very welcome. There's also, you can look up the different types of feet that they have. So, all clawfoot tubs are tubs, but not all tubs are clawfoot. Kind of like the jacuzzi thing. All jacuzzis are hot tubs, but not all hot tubs are jacuzzis. It's the same thing. You will see the clawfoot, right? It's usually like 3 or 4 across the front. But there's others that still have a selectable foot where it's not a claw at all. It's an ornate design. So not all clawfoot tubs. Not all clawfoot tubs. All clawfoot tubs are tubs, but not all tubs are clawfoot when they have that, when it's a exterior tub. Julie Anderson, good morning, Matt. Good morning. I'm your resident daycare expert. I own mine for 33 years, licensed for 50. Awesome. I raised my kids with me. I love that. Give me a call if you have questions. Dion has my number. Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely, it's all about the land, this land for us. The day that happens, you're my next phone call. I won't, for me, just so you know, I won't spend any more time on it until I know I can get that land, because it doesn't interest me doing it anywhere else. It only interests me in that particular piece of land because it gives me a best use of capital for that land. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. All-nighter hider. Not all adhesive strips are Band-Aid brand. That's exactly right. That's when you know you've won the branding war, right? You know you've won the war. In fact, Ben Mala, for those of you guys who are watching Mala, he made a joke about me because I paid for a super chat. I was asking him about his debt, and he goes, "Lumberjack landlord, does that guy do log buildings, log cabins?" When you know you might need a name change. His son got a huge kick out of the name too. They were laughing. I was like, that's great. And then he read the question and he couldn't understand the question. He read it wrong. He kept on adding words. I was like, no, that's not the question. So yeah, it was really funny. So I'll ask a question again, definitely of Mala. I have utmost respect for the guy. He's built an amazing empire. But yeah, he's one of the guys that I look at and say, I don't know what your debt structure is, but I'd love to know, because are you going to be able to keep everything? Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He's a cash flow. He's crushing it cash flow wise, but he already said that they're making less than half as much as they used to based on the rates being where they are. What happens when rates go higher? And if he's only floating debt, if we go to 7, that's triple or almost quadruple what he was paying. He admitted to 2% loans. I don't know. Beth Traverso. Clawfoot tubs are awful to shower in too. You are correct. We had one for, man, like a year and a half. Man, that sucked. That was so awful. So awful. Man, it was awful. Yeah. Like the number of times I stubbed my toe getting into the thing, because they're already pretty tall. They're way higher than stepping into a regular tub. Regular tub, I think, is 17 inches. And you can get what's called a deep tub for 19. These things are usually more than 19 inches off the floor. That's how high they can be. It's a hazard, especially for someone that's uncoordinated like me. All-nighter hider. Yes, not all. He said, oh, I'm sorry. I missed your question, Beth, but glad I got it. Christopher Leroy. Christopher, thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you. I don't think you've asked a question before, so I'm happy that you're here. When your rentals are grossly under market value and you raise the rent still under market value, what is your success rate and or problems you can see in the future or coming? Man, that's a really good question. So it was really funny. I watched, when I first met Dion, I watched his binder strategy and I was like, he did it better than I did, because he actually presents it in a binder. For me, we would do, so we kind of had like a kind of hybrid version of it. So basically that binder strategy is you get your tenants to ask you for a rent increase. It's no deceiving. It's not deceptive. We would literally say, hey, wanted to reach out to you. Your lease is up for renewal. It's usually 60 days beforehand. And we say, if they've only been with us a year, we just talk about the renewal. We don't actually ask about raising it. If it's a second renewal for them and they're in their second year, we actually will say, hey, it's been great having you as a tenant. If it has been, it's been great having you as a tenant. Would like to understand if you're interested in renewing. And basically just say, after that, we say, we'd like to understand if you're interested in renewing, based on increased costs and et cetera, and what the market's done. We will be raising the rent, or raising your rent. And then I forget, I forget, I have it somewhere. I have to find it on my phone. We just did this. It depends. We've had a couple of different stories. So that particular one was, we will be raising the rent. They were an all right tenant. We're like, we will be raising the rent. And here's a few other apartments in the area and what they charge. Let me know how close you can get to that number. And if you can do it, great. And if you can't, completely understand, and we wish you all the best. That one was pretty short and sweet. We add more steps to it if you're somebody we're really trying to keep. So if you're one of my tenants and you're watching this, and that's the response that you got from me, it's okay if you leave. We're good with that. But we have more steps to that when we have somebody we really, really like, which is, we'll go down the road of, hey, it's been great having you, understanding that the market's, really completely changed and shifted. Not sure if you've done any looking. Here's some, would like to understand if it's something that you are in fact interested in renewing, and then we'll wait for that answer back. If they say no, then it's a moot point. We're not even going down that path. If they say, yes, we'd love to, then we jump into that part of the conversation. But that's the approach that we have, Christopher Leroy. It's worked really well for us. We have had circumstances where somebody said, nope, that's ridiculous. That's way too expensive. They then committed to moving out. Then they wanted to move. Then they wanted to stay, and they ended up having to move. But they had to move they're like, that price is ridiculous. They had to move 3 towns away, 25 minutes north, to get a price that was equal to or a little bit better than the price for the place that they had, which is in a much nicer, in our city, much nicer. So yeah, so we have had it not work out, but I'd say that's on a single hand, we've had that not work out. We've actually, last year alone, we got, we made an additional, I don't know, 6 figures on rental increases. Yep. Flash of light. Good morning, Matt. Speaking of debt structure, what do you think happens to the likes of Grant Cardone after the Jackson Hole speech? I think it's getting close to the end for him. I really like Grant Cardone. I think he's hilarious. I think that behaviorally, a lot of people can learn a lot from him. I think his debt structure. So here's what I will tell you. Fannie and Freddie look for big operators. I can tell you that I know that he has been reached out to by Fannie Freddie on institutional assets because they know he's such a good operator. So I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't. I think that anybody that built in numbers for rental increases for 5 years straight, I think the newer deals that people are putting under are the more scary deals. Yeah, I think, when you've owned an asset for 5 years or 7 years, it's pretty, it's usually a pretty good asset. I think the challenging part that he'll have is debt reset and how much they actually paid down that mortgage, what the new nut's going to be. And I think in many cases, in a lot of cases, you might just have to take the higher hit and basically drastically reduce the amount of returns that you have going to your investors, or worse, you're not at the global revenue number that you need to be on the asset. And then you actually have to go back and recapitalize, which means you have to do a round of funding and say, hey, I need you guys all to kick in this much money. And when you kick in this much money, oh yeah, you're not getting any more return. You're just bang it down so the bank doesn't take it from us. That type of thing. There's others out there that I'm far more worried for than Grant Cardone. I love Ben Mala. I think that he's more in the shoes. I think he's more in the shoes of floating debt. That's what scares the daylights out of me on this stuff. I've signed up for some 7-year debt. It's on amortized over 25. I've got 7 years on it. I figure that, but that property is also going to be more aggressively on the pay down train. And it's only a small percentage of my portfolio. It's like maybe 20% of my portfolio. And the numbers still work, even if we adjust from like 375 or 4. Even if we adjust to 7, I still make money on the property. I just make less. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be the end for him. Grant Cardone, I like in a respectful way. I liken him to like, and it's horrible to say, but it's the only comparison I can kind of come up with, which is like a cockroach in a nuclear war. Like he's going to be one of the few guys to last. I don't think that his structure is as bad as a lot of these other guys out there. I think there's a lot of ones that are bad out there, just bad structure. And I think that they've used their name to promote stuff. I'd love to see the deals that like Ryan Pineda is getting into. I'd love to see those deals. There's a pretty high IRRs on those. Love to see, even though in the Graham Stephan or Brandon Turner. Yeah, those are the ones that I'm a little bit scared of, because a lot of it's new construction or newer stuff where it's not going to be done for some time. One of them I saw 64% target IRR, and it's brand new buildings in Phoenix. Want to bet? Want to bet? There's no way you hit 64 IRR. No way. No way. No way. No way. Nope. No way. I think those kind of companies are in trouble. Keith Hager, message retracted. That's okay. It doesn't bother me. Ironwood Workman. I like the old bikes as well. Very cool. Maybe someday I'll have a 57 Vincent. Oh, I was actually Vincent shopping 2 years ago and I found one, but it was a complete mongrel. And so I was like, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, it's got to be a right bike. So are you so there's the Black Shadow. Vincent's an old motorcycle. There's the Black Shadow, and then they also have, I think it's the Comet. Is it a Comet? There's a Black Shadow, and then there's another one. Oh, Rapide. Yeah, not a rocket. Rapide. Both cool bikes. One of them's a 500, one of them's bigger. But those engines, when polished, that bike is just gorge. Like that bike is just beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous bike. By the way, it was a 48 Panhead at age 7 that made me fall in love with them. Yeah, Panheads, right? Yeah, for sure. Yep. I've ridden one. Didn't love the ride. Ironwood Workman. It is amazing what a free ride on a Harley can do to a boy's mind. Yeah, ain't that the truth? I think Ben Mala always has more cash on hand than it in the debt to the banks. Yeah, I think so. But I think the challenge becomes, like I said, I would never question his business acumen. Like the dude's huge. It's, $250 million. I think the only challenge that I see, and again, I don't know his books. The only challenge that I see based on what I believe he's portraying is he locked in at 2% loans. They're going to be 7% loans. And the income is only there if the hotels are full. If we're in recession, then hotel use goes significantly down. Business travel, we've proven that we can do a lot over Zoom. So will that travel? And he's in the Orlando, a lot in the Florida area, but a lot of Orlando, and I think some Miami. Excuse me. And so the question is does that return? So that's where I think that there's risk there. But obviously I'm not calling up Ben and going, Ben, I'd like you to look at your balance sheet. I think it's wrong. And I think you're going to get crushed. No idea. He knows way more about that stuff than I do. But if you're at 2 and you're going to 8, I don't know that anybody had that built in. And so even if you're selling at what you're selling at now, I think 8, probably you're not making a lot of money. But if your utilization of those units goes down, now everything's gone in the wrong direction. Rates way up, utilization way down. And the problem is that with a commercial property like that, the bank can come to you and say, you need to pump a bunch of reserves. So that cash that he has, he might need to give the bank $10 million to get them to go away, to get them to be in, to not have them, put him in default. That's the scary part about commercial rates as well as commercial deals. Holy cow, it's almost 2:00. I had no idea. I actually was going to do an abbreviated session today. I guess not. Wow. Crazy. Wow. Nicholas, cash flow, Johnny Ramirez, real estate freaks. What's up, my man? Hope you're doing great. Nicholas Massey, with Section 8 vouchers, how do you decide who qualifies when asking for 3 times the rent? Excellent question. So the way that we do it is usually Section 8 covers X% of the rent. So let's say it's $1,000. And Section 8 is going to cover 750, but there's 250 that they're not going to cover. I want to make sure the 250 they're not going to cover, that you net at least 3x that checks that box and says that you qualify like others do. If you are, if you don't have it all covered by Section 8 and you don't make that much money, you need to net 3x. You have to net 3x. Usually what I find in those particular cases is even if they are able to check that box, they don't hit the credit box. They're usually a sub 680 credit score. Now, if they are a 700 credit score and they do hit that 3x, even if it's $250, and $750 a month net because of some benefit that they're on, fine. That's fine. That's fine. You just have to have that 3x net take home. Yep. So that's how I do it. Diatom Z. First time you've asked a question. I'm super excited to have you here. And that's a really cool name, by the way. If tenant agreed and signing a notice of rental increase, does another lease need to be signed, or does a signed rent increase notice suffice? I have them sign a lease. I don't know what the rules and laws are in your state. That might be the case. I just have them sign an updated lease, because that way there's no confusion over, do all the terms still, it eliminates the need to ever have the conversation. Do all those terms still apply, right? I eliminate that issue. That's the big key for me. So my hope is always, or my goal always is, I want a newly signed lease, because also my leases, they'll get updated, not every year, but every couple of years. I don't want people on an old lease where some law or rule might have changed that might get me stuck. So I always go with the new lease. I think it absolutely makes sense. So I get that agreement from them on the rental increase, and then I just have them re-sign the lease. Everything I do is through DocuSign though, so it's not an event. I don't have to go visit them. They don't have to come visit me. I don't have to send some rental agent and pay money, just DocuSign. And if you have an email, you can digitally sign it. If you digitally sign it, it's legal, especially through DocuSign, .loop, any of those online things. All-nighter hider, walking into church super late. See y'all. Sorry, man. Hopefully I didn't make you late. But that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Diatom Z. That's what I would do. Always have them re-sign it. 100% of the time. Absolutely 100% of the time. Yeah, that's what I do. Have them sign it. Pallavi, thank you, Matt, and everyone. Have to listen when back home. Cool. It's great having you. Thanks, Pallavi. All right, guys. Any other questions? Let me know. I'm going to be wrapping up kind of soon. And then I think I'm going to do one more thing as well. All right. I'm going to do one last thing for you guys too. So as you guys know, I have a video that's come out about lead, where we are going to be put under lead order, which means that we have to get the tenants out of the unit. and that we have to hire a firm to come in, remove anything that has lead on it. They are in the process of booking a risk assessment with me that will then create a work order list. Then that work order list will then be bid out with these state contractors. And then I will get bids back and I can select whether or not I want to use those bids or if I decide that I want to go my own way. So one of the things that I thought was just really interesting and just seeing how our world continues to evolve, and I'd like your opinion on it. So my thought process is this, is that one of the biggest challenges, and as I've done more research on it, 42,000 homes in New Hampshire have lead paint where they also have a child at the age of 6 and under living in the home. They're the ones most susceptible to the lead poisoning that they're calling it. So the very interesting thing about this is that I was surprised to find out that at the doctor's appointment that they are actually handing out this book. And I'm going to read you the book because I really like your feedback on it. And I'd really like to understand what people's general thoughts and feelings are on something like this being handed to them. Because what I find interesting is in the state of New Hampshire, anytime you rent out a rental unit that is built before 1978 or 79, you have to give them what's called a healthy family lead disclosures form. We send out the lead disclosures. Everybody has to sign it. It's part of the lease that you sign. But I was interested to find out that this book actually exists because I'd never heard of this book before. But it was given to one of my tenants that is in that building when their test score was slightly elevated. So I wanted to read this to you guys and kind of get your feedback on what your thoughts are that they would actually hand out this book in these doctors' offices. And it's a picture book. It's meant to be read to kids. So the name of the book is called Happy, Healthy, Lead-Free Me. Our family is getting bigger, a baby on the way. We need more space to grow and to play. See the pictures? Mm-hmm. Then it says down here in the lower left-hand, parents, did you know lead is a poison that harms nearly every part of a child's body, especially the brain? Simple steps can help keep your child lead safe. Here's another picture. They're buying a house. Looking for a bigger place, learning as we go. If there's lead paint, we need to know. Parents, did you know before you buy or rent a home built before 1978, you should by law receive the Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home booklet? Homes built before 1978 may contain lead-based paint and lead dust. Here's the next picture in the home. Before making rooms warm and bright, we check for lead to renovate, right? So they're telling you to go buy a bunch of lead tests. Parents, did you know before you decide to buy or to renovate a home, a licensed lead inspector can test for lead-based paint? Now that is very true. However, I can tell you, I have never seen anybody ever win a contract on a home when they tested for lead paint. As soon as that comes over on the disclosures and they say, I want to test for lead, every seller says, I won't take that deal because everyone knows that that lead paint exists. If it was built before 1978, you can't get around it. It exists. Parents, did you know before you decide to buy or to renovate a home, a licensed lead inspector can test for lead-based paint? A home inspection does not include a test for lead-based paint. They're basically asking you to call the state and get a lead test done. Here's a picture of him swabbing the windowsill. Using a test kit, the swab tips turn red. Now we know that there is lead. Parents, did you know the amount of lead dust that can poison a child is so tiny you can't see it on the hands, toys, floor, or other surfaces? You can buy EPA recognized lead kit tests at the hardware store. Think about that. It's so untraceable. 5 deciliters per million. 5 deciliters. 5 deciliters. A deciliter is the size of a grain of sugar. Packing for our trip. It's going to be fun. Staying away from home until the work is done. Parents, did you know children and pregnant women should leave until lead-safe work is complete and the area has been thoroughly cleaned? Work that disturbs lead paint creates dangerous lead dust. Here's the renovate right. Working lead safe is important to do to protect our family and the workers too. Parents, did you know renovators certified in lead safe work policies are also trained to check for lead and to go out to give out the renovate right booklet. Lead safe renovation training is available for homeowners. Blowing out the candle, our family gathers near, singing happy birthday to celebrate the year. Parents, did you know children who look happy and healthy can have dangerous levels of lead in their bodies? Children's lead levels should be tested at age 1 and again at age 2. Here's this picture. Again, people want some feedback on this. I'm not done reading it. When visiting the doctor at ages 1 and 2, a lead level test is what we do. Parents, did you know your child's lead levels can be tested in a doctor's office with a simple finger prick? Test results are available before you leave the office. Checking baby from head to toe, a quick lead level test before we go. Parents, did you know washing your child's hands with soap and water is important before eating, sleeping, and lead level testing to remove lead particles? Alcohol swabs and hand sanitizers do not remove lead. Here's the picture. Checking baby from head to toe. Sorry, I already read that one. Laughing together while playing with toys. Our home is just filled with joyful noise. Parents, did you know there are many places in your home and environment where lead may be found, including paint, dust, soil, toys, and water? Lead can be carried home from some types of jobs and hobbies. Taking simple steps, easy as can be, keeps us happy, healthy, and lead-free. Happy family, lead-free. There is no safe level of lead exposure for children. Even low levels are bad for their health, brain development, and growth. Lead poisoning is 100% preventable. The end. So I would like your guys' feedback on that book that was handed to my tenant when they went in for their baby's checkup. One of the other interesting things to note from that checkup was the baby got a 25 on their doctor's office test. And then when they actually had a PCR lead test for their blood, it was a 6. It's interesting there could be that much fluctuation in 3 hours. One would think that maybe that one test was wildly wrong, but I'm interested in your guys' feedback on that. I wanted to read you that story because I thought it interesting that that book would be handed to a tenant. But I love your feedback. So I'll go in and I'll answer the rest of the questions here for you guys. The Black Shadow was built with a compression ratio lower than the Rapides. Yep, but the Rapides have different pistons. I like them both. Yeah, you and me both. Just Rapides are cheaper, right? Because that Black Shadow is just gorge. Like the engine is, I mean, just the engine's ridiculous. Yeah. Johnny Cashflow Ramirez, I was just quoted 6.6. That's with buy down that cost $4K. Ooh, that seems high, but I don't know. I just got 6. So I don't know. Do the numbers work at that? I think that's the real big thing right there, right? Diatom Z, thank you. You're welcome, Diatom Z. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me today. Ironwood Workman, the Black Shadow was the prototype. It is worth more. Yeah, way more. They're like 6-figure motorcycles still. Yep. Joshua Lemon. Hey, Matt. Hey, Joshua Lemon. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Tiffany White. Tiffany, we are finally getting a fish tank. We are getting a fish tank. True story. We are getting a fish tank for the little bean. She doesn't know. It's a surprise, but we are getting a fish tank. So Tiffany, thanks for coming. Tiffany has an awesome channel on fish tanks. It's awesome. Jeff M, great stream today, Lumberjack. I've learned so much from you and Mike. I watch you guys every day. Jeff M, thank you so much, my dude. Jeff, is this the same Jeff M that has a upcoming an upcoming interview on another channel? I would love to. I think that's the same Jeff M. Let me know. Matt Bittner, have you ever seen Sam Zell interviews? Yes, I adore him. As much as one property guy can adore another property guy, that much. I heart him. He is one of my favorite billionaires to listen to by far. Yep. So Sam Zell, I'd say my Mount Rushmore of billionaires is probably Ken Langone, founder of Home Depot, Ray Dalio, Sam Zell, and probably I have to think about number 4, but those are definitely my favorite 3. Yeah, definitely my favorite 3. Billionaires. Jeff M, yes it is. Jeff M, I gotta admit, I got my popcorn ready. I got my popcorn ready, Jeff M. I want to watch. I really want to know. I can't wait to watch your interview. So I'm really excited. Let's see. Nicholas Massey, looks like it's time to sell everything and move. It's a challenge. I'm putting that out there because I always share the good and the bad, no matter what the experience is. I want to make sure you guys know what that process is, how it works, what I got to do, the time, the money, the effort, the energy, and the whole entire process. I was really just shocked that they were handing this out to people. I mean, I provide the people in the house that can read. I provide them a lead safe pamphlet that they're more than welcome to read. The issue is if they don't want to take the place, that's completely fine. You don't have to take the place. But the brand new construction is $1,500 more a month for that unit. If you can afford that, then you should be in that unit anyway. I can't make the lead disappear because if I do that rehab for $50,000, the numbers no longer work at what I'm renting it for. That's the reality of it. So yeah, I will keep you guys posted with exactly what happens there. Ironwood workman. Most everything had asbestos and lead paint when I was a kid. True. Plus the glass had lead in it. True. I'm not saying it's good. True. But maybe this is too much. Yeah. I mean, greatest generation in the world. Everything that you guys touched was covered in lead and asbestos. Everything. You guys are the greatest generation. I think you're in that group. So I apologize. I don't mean to offend you if you aren't. But that's one of the things that concerns me is I want to deliver affordable housing, but I can't do it if I have to gut every house that I do to make sure that there's no lead paint existing. Can't do it. And it's more than just it being safe. It's existing. It's there. So it'll be interesting to go through this process. And I want to share every piece of information I can with you guys to make sure you know exactly what the process was. But to give you the math, 42,000 homes in New Hampshire, 42,000 homes have a 6-year-old or under living in the home that has lead paint. 42,000 homes. So based on that 42,000 homes, think of it this way. They do 250 homes a year with this program. 42,000 homes, 250 homes a year they get to. And that's just the ones that they know about now, living with have a 6-year-old or under living in the home. There's a lot more homes than that still have lead, hundreds of thousands. And usually what you'll find is the older ones are the ones that are more affordable from a rent perspective because they've been owned for a number of years. And so largely that's where tenants are going to find the lower rents. So it's a problem. I just don't know how to fix it. Anna K, what an elaborately illustrated and bounded book. I concur. I agree. Jeff, brah. Low key, I almost fell asleep when you're reading that. That is a $1 million voice right there reading that book because I have to put my kids to bed at night. That's how I do it. It's that voice. I know how to read these things, man. I'm dialed in. My kids fighting it. Yes, I won. Keith Hager sounds like a fear-mongering home inspector. This was actually handed to them, Keith, by a nurse in the doctor's office at their appointment. It's interesting. And okay, beautiful book, actually. It is a very pretty, very well done book. Yep. Yep, it's a well done book. My concerns are more the contents. And again, the people that have to know about this stuff, the parents that are renting it, they've been given all of that documentation. So the real stuff, it's a 16-page document. They can read it all. Yep. Yep, they can. Tiffany White, I'm so excited for y'all. I am so excited too. The only downside is, Tiffany, is that my TV that the kids watch your fish on is like 75 inches. This tank might be underwhelming because it's like a 50-gallon. So I will definitely send you pictures. So for guys, Tiffany White has a phenomenal fish channel, fish tank channel. My kids love watching it. If you've got young kids, like really young kids, I just pop it on, let them watch it, give her some views, but it's really cool stuff. So the kids really like it. So Jeff, I'm super excited for your interview. I can't wait to hear it. Yeah, I mean, you ask great questions on my live streams and in my videos. So I'm very interested to see the direction that the interview takes. I'm very, very interested. Because I think that Travis is really out there seeking, I think he's seeking truth. I think he's one of the genuine guys actually seeking truth. So I'm just very interested to see how the video goes, or the interview goes. Oh, did you already record it? Did you already record? Oh yeah, you probably recorded today, eh? Or yesterday? You probably recorded yesterday. Is it out yet? Sorry, I'm like 7. Ma. I'm sure you did fine, my man. I'm sure you did fine. It's just our story, right? So I always tell people when I interview them, I say, don't get nervous. It's just your story. It's just you. You don't have to remember anything. It's truly just tell your story. That's all really, that's the purpose of what we're doing here. Coming out at 4 p.m. Central. Okay, cool. 5 p.m. Cool. I will definitely be watching it tonight after the kiddos are in bed. Yeah, already recorded. Cool. Cool. How'd you feel about it, Jeff? Just generally, like, how'd you feel about the time? And guys, I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned it. Real estate mindset. That's the channel that Jeff's interview is going to be on. Real estate mindset and I went pretty hard at each other, but we had an off-camera meeting. We came together. I think we can both help each other. And so he is, I think, seeking truth as he sold his house. He's now renting and he's waiting to buy into the market. So I'm very interested to see, as Jeff is also looking to buy into the market, I'm very interested to see what they kind of came up with together. Anna Kay, I grew up totally before 1979. We had moved several times in rentals. I turned out to be all right. You did. It's a miracle. Same here. I was born in 77. But we lived in, affordable housing then. Yeah, yep. I'm very interested just in this process. I'm going to share everything because I really think it's going to help people. The last time I got hit with one of these lead orders was in 2009, and it almost bankrupted me. So that was a scary time for me and for Ashley. It literally almost single-handedly bankrupted us. Yeah. So watch that video. Give me your thoughts on the video that I did there. I'm going to be adding part 2. For sure. There's probably going to be 5 or 6 parts to it, but wait until you see part 2. It should be sometime this week. Jeff M. It was just brought about how it feels to be a home buyer. Yep. I was trying to recite numbers from you and Mike. Yep. But I got so nervous and fumbled on my words at sometimes. You and Mike have such great points. I appreciate that, Jeff. Yeah, I think we just want to give information out there. So I don't think that, while I disagree with crash videos, I don't think that real estate mindset, I don't think Travis is really trying to rile people up. I think he's really trying to share the data. We've had very thoughtful conversations, and I quite frankly have a lot of respect for the guy, even though he doesn't agree with me in some stuff. We agree on some stuff, but we don't agree on others. And I think I have a lot of respect for the guy. I think he's got chops. Christopher Leroy, I'm a small hands-on landlord. When dealing with your tenant, what percentage looks treat you like a friend or enemy? So it really is about the market, Christopher. For me, is I don't raise it like 15 or 20 or 30%. I raise it based on what the comps are that I could show them. So if they look at it and say, you know, I show them, hey, this one bedroom that's kind of like, you know, I show them 3 or 4, you know, take a look at these ads. I even give them the links in the email or in the text. Hey, take a look at these ads. Let me know what you think. And I compare it and I show them, they can click on the link. They can see it themselves. And then if they're like, oh yeah, well, those are all way nicer. Okay. What do you think is a fair number? And then would they come back within the fair number? We had one that was paying 2,200. I went back and I showed them 5 comps that were 2,800 to 3,000. And 2 of them were nicer and 3 of them were about the same. And they came back and they just said, will you do 25? And I said, I won't, but I'll do 27. And they said, yeah, that's cool. We'll do that. So it's $100 lower than the other 5, but I don't have to find another tenant, pay an agent, all that other stuff, which is going to cost me $1,000 anyway. So it worked for them, worked for me. They don't have to move and everyone's happy. So I think that worked out great. So I don't think it's a friend or enemy thing. I think it's presenting the data. And quite frankly, if they're going to scream and complain that you're going to, and you can, the most important thing is you have the ability to say no. When they come back and say, 2,500, like they did in my case, I could have just said no. I said, I can't do it for that, but I can do it for 27. And then they were still thrilled because they were still under market. They didn't have to move. They were happy. If I gone back and said, nope, I still want the 3, you're better off at that point just saying this isn't going to work out. We're going to put it on the market and look for something else, or put it out for rent. Jeff M, I don't believe there will be a huge crash, although I'm hoping, as are you. Yep. But I think we will see maybe 10% decreases, even though I'm hoping for double digits. I agree with you. That's actually exactly what I've been saying for 9 months. I think there's going to be a correction between 10 and 20% over the next 12 to 24 months. That's what I've been saying. So maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. Either way, I'm still in the market trying to buy great deals. That's it for me. I remember when the gas pumps first said unleaded and regular gas. I'm getting old. Okay. I'm old. Yeah, exactly. What I appreciate that. The bigger thing was the panhead story. That's what had me guess that was the panhead. A lot of people don't even know what a panhead is. They think it's a pan that you put on your head. Jeff M, thanks for the kind words, Lumberjack. See you around. I appreciate that, Jeff. Back at you. I'd love to see it. I'll be excited for the interview, and I would definitely will be asking questions. Shirt Lizard, screen printing, embroidery, drilling 6-inch holes in a 1950s home today. How do I get rid of hazardous dust? Well, so there's something called a PPA. It's a special training that most states hold, and it's a 1-day course for homeowners. It's a 3-day course for contractors, and it's a 4-day course for supervisors, which is basically a 3-day course plus a day course. What they will tell you is certain surfaces shouldn't be cut into, and plastic and air respirators and negative, negative, what do they call it? Negative something rooms, negative pressure rooms. It's a fairly exhaustive list. If you look at one company to another, you can see probably an 80% increase if they do it that way. And the funny thing is the state has a problem with it. None of the towns really have a problem with it. They all recognize that, you know, if that happens, then business shuts down. But yeah, it's one of the harsh realities. Diatom Z, when signing a new lease, does it have to be notarized to be binding, aka official? In my state, it doesn't. In my state, if it's 1-year lease, it can just be myself and the tenant. I believe it's 2-year leases. I believe that does need to be notarized, but 1 years don't. 1 years are just my signature, their signature. We didn't bring notary into the mix for original move in landlord written contract. No problem with the tenant either. Yeah. Check your state. I would just look at like You can call like legal aid. You can call, that's a free phone call. You can also, you should have most landlords should have an attorney on retainer just so they can ask those, ask questions like that. Save up a few of them, but usually that's something pretty simple. Yep. Matt Bittner, did you know asbestos is still mined in Russia? I did. I did. Yep. Joshua Lemon, just watched the craziest way you found a deal video. Oh, cool. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. Or Joshua. Yeah, it was we'll see. It could turn into something crazy. I'm very excited for that call this week. Very excited. Price and Pride. Can you bring back the wifey to talk about how she manages the properties and leases? How do you make sure you're meeting the time requirements if rent is late or when you want to terminate a lease? I still handle a lot of that stuff. And so we go through every Thursday night, we go through who paid rent and who didn't pay rent. And if you didn't pay rent, then you get a love note or you get a love note via text. If you don't respond, then we just drop off a demand for rent on your doorstep. If you do respond, then we just want to understand what's going on with you. We just want to understand, are you okay? Is everything all right? That's the approach of the text. And so if you don't respond back to that, at that point, you're probably going to, fairly high likelihood you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, or you're not going to pay. And that's just how we manage it. That's literally it. So we have all of our leases in the system. It's 121 leases at this point. Actually, not really. It's like more like 90 leases. The other 31 are month to month because they're inherited tenants. But all of those leases are just in the system. And we have it set. We put in the date range in the indoor loop. We put in the date range of when the lease starts to when it finishes. And then we wrote a report every month of what leases do we have expiring in 60 days. So that way we know. Because once they come up on that 60-day list, we'll then decide, are we going to send them a letter saying we don't want them anymore? And basically saying, hey, the terms of lease are over in 60 days. Just know that we are going to take the unit back because we're going to rehab it, or because we're drastically increasing the rents to X. I've never had anybody say, oh no, but I still want to stay. Usually they hate me or they don't like me. They think some way about me. Because I didn't, drop whatever I was doing to go out there and fix their broken handle on their cabinet, within 30 seconds of getting the phone call. Yep. Yeah. Hey, Matt, are your slow plays increasing lately, or is pretty much everyone keeping their jobs? Everybody's keeping their jobs. The issue that's everyone's having is there's no more stimmy money. There's no more stimmy ballers out there. That's been the issue. So people went out and bought a new car, got a $700 a month car payment, and their rent is $1,200. And they have a $700 a month car payment. And so now they're dying for that car. So some are going to lose their cars. And so it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. More late rents now than the middle of COVID, because I think people really took a lot of the free money, stimmy payments, things like that, and did things with it they shouldn't have done with it. So very few actually saved it. Some did, but very few didn't, or very few did. Some, most didn't. And so now their monthly nut is a lot bigger than it was pre-COVID. And so now I see people starting to DQ. Yep. It's still mostly with, not with my tenants. It's mostly with inherited tenants. And so a lot of those inherited tenants are the reason why the landlord sold the building. And I can totally see it. Yeah. Like one guy, his monthly nut all in was about $4,000 a month and his rents were $3,800. He's like, I just couldn't make the numbers work. I said, of course you can't make $200 automatically. Like, you need to raise your rents. Yeah, I can't raise my rents. That's why you're selling the house then. The rents are going to be $7,000. That's market. I'll work with people and graduate them up, get them up higher gradually. But he couldn't afford to do it. He couldn't, like, his mortgage was too big. So yeah, we'll fix it. So yeah, everybody's keeping their jobs. There are more than enough jobs to go out and about. Tons of jobs out there. If you want one, you can have one. I think in New Hampshire, our unemployment rate's under 2%. If you want a job, you can have one. If you don't have a job, it's because you don't want one. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo. Let's see. Christopher Leroy, how many doors do you have? 121, and I'll have 130 by the end of September. Do I do most of my legal work? No, I have an attorney. I don't do most. I do some stuff, but not a lot. Most of it's my attorney. I'd say depends on what you mean by legal. Like filing a demand for rent. It's technically it's legal, but that's easy. That's just filling out the paper and posting on the door. Responding to something back from the court. Usually I'll look at it. And then if it's just like, oh, this is the date, but it's an open and shut with the tenant, you know, we'll have the attorney go in just as the buffer, just to try and work something out. Cause clearly we haven't been able to. Yep. Phil Nealand. I wonder who sponsored that pamphlet or who puts it in the offices. Indeed. Yeah. Yep. As do I. As do I. Yep. Joshua. I'm using door loop now. Cool. It's hard to make the transition from rent tech direct. Yep. That's what I was using. It's crazy. I don't know why the credit cards don't automatically import. Because it's credit card data. It's credit card data. That's why. Yep. I forget what they call that. But yeah, it's because it's financial data. They'll never do a port for credit cards for that stuff. There's always something more that you have to do. Brandon Schuster. Hey, Lumberjack Landlord. I'm new to your channel. I was just going to say, I don't think you've asked a question before, so I'm super excited to have you here. What does your portfolio look like? Any tips for a first-time home buyer? I prefer to buy a fourplex using an FHA loan. Brandon, my first recommendation to you is take a look at my 4321 video on my channel. That's the most important video that I've ever put out. 4321. It's a system that I came up with. I've lived, I've worked in it. I've taught others it. And that's what's helped them get financially free. I think you're dead on exactly that being your approach. My portfolio is 121 units, 41 buildings. Almost everything is a 2, 3, or 4 unit. We do have a couple bigger, but most of them are 2s, 3s, and 4s. And yeah, that's what the portfolio looks like. So I realize I've hit 2:30, guys. I can't believe that. Totally flew by. I was expecting to do an hour today. I hear my little screeching monkey outside the door, which is Eliana, my 16-month-old. So I'm going to go spend some time with her and the other kids. But I loved having you guys here with me today. Is that a can of Fresca? Yep. It's been a long time since I've seen that brand. Yay. Yes. Yes, it's a Fresca. I do. I like it. It's fresh. Yep. What's really funny is I hate grapefruit, but I like Fresca. I hate grapefruit, but I like Fresca. That is a Fresca. Good eye. Good eye. Brandon Schuster. Wow. Congrats on your success, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you for your advice. I will check out the 4321 video. So Brandon, check out the 4321, leave a comment on there. And if you leave a comment on there with a question, I'm happy to answer it. The channel at about 3,600 subscribers is still small enough where I can still get to most of the questions. So if you have any question, let me know. Matt Bittner, do you own any mobile homes? I don't. I would love to buy a mobile home park. Actually, I would love to buy that asset. The challenge is that cities and towns around me are making it very difficult. You can't open a new one. They're making it very difficult to allow them to be transferred. It's been a challenge. And the reason why is because the cost to the towns for them based on the services that they use versus the income, or based on the taxes that they pay into the system, is completely out of whack. So I'm kind of watching because it's going to change things quickly. Joshua Lemon, thanks for your time. You're very welcome. Andrew P. spoke with a local house hacker, triplex, and in my market, cool, tenant friendly, rent control. He determined the only way to cash flow was via traveling nurses, short-term stay, fully furnished. Yikes. Yeah, that's a yikes, Andrew P. I totally get that. That's scary, dude. Yeah, that's scary. Cool. Bay Area, California might not be the way. It sounds it. Andrew P, take a look at Millennial Mike does it in Gary, Indiana. Take a peek. I looked. It's an interesting market. It's an interesting market. Look at Millennial Mike. Watch some of the videos on his channel. Yeah, sharp. Matt Bittner, municipalities don't honestly want affordable housing. They make it too difficult to develop mobile home parks. No kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I fight with them all the time. I have some like amazing ideas on affordable housing. Not interested. Oh yeah, you can't do it on that piece of land. Oh yeah, not on that piece of land either. Yeah, sorry, not on that piece of land. Hey, do you want affordable housing or not? I'm willing to build it. All I need is some work on the land. I need a little bit of help. Yeah, sorry, not that piece of land. Okay, fine. And it's affordable, nice housing. It's not like just another multifamily. So it's a little bit brutal. Cool. Well, you guys have an awesome rest of your week. I hope you have just a fantastic week. We'll be coming out with some more videos this week on the lead stuff. I appreciate all your time. And I do have the list. I'm waiting for my die to come in, the die that I can roll, because there were 10 people on that. And so somebody with their at least $1 minimum super chat is going to get a Lumberjack Landlord t-shirt, and they will be available on the site this week. Matt Bittner, last question. The space requirements in between the mobile homes is the one way they make it harder. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because if you can get away with basically a mobile home 14 feet across and then another stretch, then you can actually get them in decently close and actually get some density. But now they're pushing this crazy lack of density where it's like, how many homes are even going to be able to get into that place? Totally agree with you. But yeah, appreciate you guys. Ironwood, I appreciate you showing up. It was a pleasure having some new folks on the channel today. Like nursing homes, it takes 20 units or more to make extra cash flow in RV parks. Yeah, totally true. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you have an awesome week. I'm gonna go hang out with my kids. Yeah, check me out this week. We'll have a bunch more stuff coming, and more updates on the lead stuff. And as soon as I get that die in, I will roll it and I will say who is going to get the first Lumberjack Landlord t-shirt approved by the Lumberjack Landlord. Appreciate you guys. Have an awesome week. Subscribe. Make sure before you leave that you hit that like button. And guys, one thing I would ask of you, please forward some of these videos over to folks like the 4-3-2-1 strategy and such. I'm reading through and it's like the YouTube algorithm really depends on people that basically say, hey, here's an answer to that question. Here's a video. Or, hey, check this guy out. He's really good. And so when that link gets shared, believe it or not, that's the biggest thing for growth for stuff. And I've just never asked for that before. And I know you guys are great folks. I know you guys appreciate the time that I give up to spend time with you because I'm invested in people. So I would just ask you if you can take a link or something like that and forward it to somebody this week. It's really helpful, certainly in like bigger pockets if you're there hanging out. But really anywhere, any of that stuff where you can post a link and get more people into the fold so more people can see and understand this stuff. Awesome. Want to do everything I can to help. Hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend and appreciate you guys so very much. So comments in the comment section help, but not nearly as much as sharing the video. And believe it or not, super chats. That's why we do the super chats for even like $1, and we'll do some raffles and things like that to get you guys shirts and some merch. But that's what they actually look at the most, is they look at like super chats and how dynamic and how fast the questions are coming in. That's when they start to push out the video that much faster. So I appreciate you guys asking, but you guys have an awesome week. I appreciate y'all. And it was a great time as always. We'll talk soon. Take care, everybody.